I'll say good morning again. That's
Good
an
morning.
hard
Morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
To all here and all who are joining us virtually. I'd like to call our meeting to order and ask Dr. Jones to please call the roll.
Holly Borchers.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. Holly Bloodworth, thank you, excuse me.
Here.
Mike Borchers.
That was a twofer.
Excuse me, Harold McKinney.
Here.
Justin Pate.
Present.
Julie Pyle.
Present.
Randy Poe.
Present.
Sharon Porter Robinson.
Here.
Lee Todd.
Here.
Steve Trumbull.
Here.
Diane Woods.
Present.
Lou Young.
Present.
Lawrence McCroby.
Present.
Preston Graham.
Here.
Secretary Jamie Link.
Here.
President Aaron Thompson. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. This is a well-timed item on our agenda at each meeting. We take the time to share good news about our educators, our students, and our partners. And we have lots of good news that we've selected to share today among the volume that we have to select. So I'm going to call on Dr. Todd to tell us about McCreary County School Counselor, who has become nationally certified.
Dr. Todd, I didn't
Oh,
get
okay.
anything.
All right. Let me,
I'll be glad.
I've got one.
okay, let me move to, Lou, can I call on you?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I will give. Let's see, you're gonna talk about the Latonia
Yes.
Elementary
That's right.
Administrative Assistant.
Yeah, I'm delighted to share the information that you'll see on the slide about the Latonia Elementary Administrative Assistant named Kim Frank, who earned the 2024-25 KESSP Award. Kim is one of the first people visitors see when they arrive at Latonia Elementary in Covington Independent School District. She is the school administrative assistant and has been distinguished in the way she dedicates herself to the students, staff, and school. And that dedication was recognized on February 21st with the 2024-2025 Kentucky Education Support Staff Professional Award. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman and our Commissioner, Robbie Fletcher, were among those who celebrated Ms. Frank's achievement. As a winner of the KESSP Award, Ms. Frank's name will now be forwarded to the U.S. Department of Education for consideration for the National 2025 Recognizing Inspirational School Employees, or RISE Award. So congratulations to Kim Frank and to everyone at Covington Independent for her great work.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Diane, would you
Yes.
share some good news?
Right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chair Robinson. I have the pleasure of sharing one of the Go Teach Kentucky ambassadors' bio, Miss Maddie Morgan, who is teaches at my old alma mater, Morehead State University.
Nice.
Maddie Morgan is one of 21 Kentucky teachers selected for the 2024 Go Teach Kentucky Ambassador Program. Ambassadors travel the state providing valuable information to those considering teaching careers and helping elevate the profession. During a visit to Morehead State University on February 13th, Ms. Morgan spoke to students, emphasizing the importance of effective teaching strategies and the impact educators can have on students' lives. She encouraged MSU students to pursue their passion for teaching and to remain committed to professional growth and excellence. Ms. Morgan says one of the best things about being an educator is a chance to make a difference. Wow, that is so true.
Yeah, isn't that right?
Ms. Morgan, congratulations, and we're looking forward to hearing more about your work at MSU.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Justin, you want to follow up?
Yes, ma'am. I would love to. And I'm sorry, but I can't hear anything about Morehead State University without thinking of the stories that I have recently come into that our own Commissioner Fletcher was a beast on the intramural basketball courts at Morehead State in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe is when that.
Oh, ouch.
I
I was 5 years old in the late 70s.
The date, I could be plus or minus a few years, I'm not sure, but,
He was just a baby.
Madam Chair, I am very, very pleased to get to announce some student recognitions. These are 4 winners from the 13th Annual Kentucky Association for Career and Technical Education Entrepreneurship event. It's sponsored by the KACTE and coordinated by the state advisors of Kentucky's career and technical education student organizations. These winners were named on March 5th here in Frankfort. And the winners were Kaylee Courtney from Carlisle County High School FFA. Her project was Kaylee's Crops, received first place. Katie Shoemaker from Marion County HOSA, K8 Designs was her project, and she finished second. Claire Elliott from Frederick Douglass High School in Fayette County, Soccer and Santa was her project. She placed third. And Lauren Taylor from Washington County High School, FFA, for Two Chicks Farm was fourth place. The competition required these students to submit an online video as well as a one-page executive summary of their business plans, which I love to see. The videos were designed to provide information on the business plan to potential investors. So it was a true entrepreneurial event. Both the videos and the executive summaries were evaluated by a panel of outside judges. So congratulations to our 4 winners.
That's beautiful to see the kind of entrepreneurship that resides in our students and have them manifested is just
Let's vibrate.
is just awesome. Dr.
I'm
Todd?
up to speed now, if they can
Yeah.
back up to McCreary County, I appreciate that. McCreary County's Angelina Farwick Philpott has become the second Kentuckian to be inaugurated into the National Certified School Social Worker certification. The first one was also from Jessamine County, Leslie Gilpin. She was the first one that was certified. There are only 34 of these in the country, and so it's a pretty elite thing. It started in 21. The critical thing, she's a mental health service provider in McCreary County, and she's assigned to Whitley City Elementary School. She provides individual counseling for students, but more importantly, she collaborates with their individual therapist to provide additional support to make sure that they're on the same page. So congratulations to Angelina Farwick Philpott.
Thank you so much. To have that kind of career ambition and steadfastness is just amazing to see. Holly, Educators Rising is kind of impressive around here, right?
Yes, this is pretty exciting. I think it aligns well with the direction of the board and trying to recruit and retain teachers. So happy to see the growth of this organization. Aspiring educators from across the state engaged in hands-on learning and professional development at the 2025 Educators Rising Conference on March 5th at the Kentucky Exposition Center in Louisville. The event, designed to inspire the next generation of teachers, featured a range of activities for students preparing for careers in education. There was a record number of 826 students in attendance.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that's awesome.
Amazing.
Throughout the day, students competed in 27 different activities that touched on several areas of teaching, including lesson planning, public speaking, and developing children's literature. The day concluded with an award ceremony recognizing the students that placed in the day's events. So
That's awesome.
that's a pretty fun picture.
Yeah, that is. That is. It's an amazing picture. Yeah. Commissioner, you were present during the Educators Rising event, right?
Absolutely. We had the governor, Governor Bashir, also Lieutenant Governor Coleman. We had several others. I was able to talk about my experience as an educator with the group. Also was able to get a clothespin or two as they were passing around and getting to know each other. But it was a great day to see the students and see the joy. Not only that, the hope, the passion that they had for what's coming up, and to see students that want to invest in the future. It's one of those days that this is why we're in education. This is why we do what we do. is to see that future, to see, have kids come forward and just have so much hope and so much caring for not only for what they're doing now, but for the teachers they have and what they're going to have in the future. So it was one of those days when you went home, you're like, praise the Lord.
Amen.
But what does it mean, get a clothespin?
Oh, they had. I had to be educated. I have to admit. So I'm out of the classroom for a few years. But instead of going up to talk to someone, if they saw something positive that was going on, and they would come and put a clothespin on, like maybe on your jacket or shirt or something of that nature, just to say good job, or maybe this is. If you'd like to talk more about this is who you can call. Or it was just really neat to see all these people. As a matter of fact, we had some of our tech people and also from our communications. Miles actually walked around all day with 4 pins on the bottom of his jacket, and he had no clue. So, they were secretive about how they did it. But one student gave me a piece of cardboard. She said, "I'm out of pen," but she slid it in. She said, "If you need a drink of water while you're talking, call me out." So I called Abby out from Grace County. Said, "Okay, I don't need a drink of water, but I want to thank you for the pen, if you will." So it was a great day. It was a great day.
Helping to share ways that we can show care for each other.
And affirmation.
Another thing that we do at the beginning of this, at this point in our agenda, is ask board members to take a minute to raise issues not included on the agenda, either for the purpose of clarification, referral to a committee, or scheduling for future board review and or action. And to also share aspects of their board service away from the table throughout the time that you're in your communities that may be of interest and for us to know. So I'm going to open the floor and ask if there. Please, I'll start with Julie.
So I have a committee report from the whole school, whole community, whole child committee.
That's right.
Because we met
Oh,
yesterday.
okay, great.
Great.
So they, it was a great meeting. Fayette County is doing a lot of great work. They actually held a pickleball palooza for their staff. But they started it with beginner kind of lessons, and they had intermediate, and then they had the advanced kind of a tournament thing. The Fayette County is doing a lot of great work around mental health, physical health, the importance of movement in schools. So I think the committee is looking at actually going to Fayette for one of our meetings. The other thing that came out was a change in ruling as far as administration of over-the-counter medications in schools, that now a doctor's note is even needed for over-the-counter medications.
Oh, wow.
Starting this next school year. So they're in the process, the nurse division is in the process of training the districts on that. But as a parent, you want to be aware of that because you might need to get some appointments scheduled this summer to be able to have those over-the-counter, like allergy medicines and things at the schools. But every medication will have to have a doctor's order. So that was something new that's been learned that's rolling out. And then just as far as some activity, both Dr. Poe and I attended the Ed Camp Northern Kentucky first part of March, I believe. We had probably close to 300 attendees, which if you're not familiar with the Ed Camp format, it's personalized professional development for teachers. And they come out on their own time on a Saturday and spend 4 hours, get to choose different sessions they go to. It's a great experience. As a parent, I even attend the camps because I want to know what's coming down the pike, what teachers are talking about type thing. So that was a lot of fun. I want to thank my colleague, Lou, for
It was fun.
being a keynote for Leadership Northern Kentucky. Her talk tied in the Portrait of a Learner. It worked very well because Alvin did a Portrait of a Learner, Alvin Garrison with Covington, who was one of my Leadership Northern Kentucky classmates, did an activity right before Lou came and talked. And then we went to Gateway Community College in the afternoon. So it was a great bridge with Portrait of a Learner, Moonshot, assessment accountability. So this is the second year we've invited Lou up, and she's actually the highest rated part of our day.
So, yay.
And then just to remind people to, the NASB is doing the exchange sessions on Mondays. Those are a great time to connect with school board or board members from across the states and be able to share information and share ideas and what's going on in our states.
Wow, thank you, Julie. Thank you for
Why don't
raising
you
that.
invite them to the
Oh,
makerspace?
yeah. Well, I think last meeting I handed out a flyer. So April 26th, it is Saturday from 10 to 2. We have the Maker Expo at Ignite Institute, which if you haven't been to Ignite, it's a good time to come see the school.
Yeah.
Where it's a group of volunteers, community members. We've done this for, I think, 6 or 7 years now, where we invite student makers, entrepreneurs, also adult makers, entrepreneurs. We have a brick challenge. This year we have a new 3D print challenge. And so it's this really vibrant, free community event, free for anybody to participate, free for people to attend. We have food trucks. Last year we had over 1,200 people attend, and we expect a lot more this year. So, and it's really cool to see all the students either selling their wares, being an entrepreneur, or showcasing how they make what they're doing. So, it's a great community event.
When you get out there with our students, you're at the heart of the matter, right, Julie? It's a very, very important kind of experience. Yes, Steve.
I do have a student recognition today. Speaking of students, our very own Preston Graham, he's waiting on his ACT scores to come out today. He's trying to improve
your
on
phone.
his 34 that he got the last time.
Oh, slacker.
So, so just we want to wish him all the luck in the world to gain
Yes.
those 2 points.
And he's got 6
Today.
AP exams in May.
34 though, buddy, right there. So congratulations.
You're doing all right, Preston.
You've got potential, sir.
You'll know. Holly.
Yeah, just one suggestion, or I guess just a thought anyway. One thing, as I look back on my service so far, like visiting the school for the deaf and the school for the blind really had a profound impact on me as somebody that is responsible for those schools in a sense. And I feel like everybody that's new to the board should have that opportunity too. So I think that's something that we need to think about because I really had no idea what those schools were like, and it's hard to talk about something that you can't picture, you have no schema for. And then also, just as we talk more about these vibrant learning experiences, so far our examples have been fairly narrow as far as like defenses of learning and things like that. I really want to see the action of it. You know, that's a culmination of it. I want to see the action. Like I would love to go and visit Ignite and see what that looks like. If that's a vibrant school that's actually implementing vibrant learning, I want to see it. I want to feel it. I think it would help me have more passion behind the work here if I have something in my mind that I want to get out to everybody.
Thank you for that.
And
Really
Chair Robinson, I just wanted to step in again with March being music in the schools month. I had the chance over the last month, taking a lot of time here off of my job in Jefferson County to visit 20 of the counties that surround here in LaRue, Meade, Breckenridge, Grayson, Hardin, Hart, Greene, Taylor, Henry, Trimble, Marion, Washington, Nelson, Bullitt, Jefferson, Spencer, Shelby, Anderson, Oldham, and Carroll, meeting with several schools and their performing arts programs to learn from the students of what it is that they are doing, what they are interested in. And it's just always a breath of fresh air and reassuring to see that there's so many wonderful things going on in so many of our schools. And they are so excited. And it gives me the ability to take some of what I do here on the board, be that it's very little my participation aspect here, but to use it as part of the Connected Arts Network that I'm involved with on the national level, and kind of advocate for continued access to fine arts and performing arts education. So it's just wonderful to be able to get out and visit some of the schools here in their surrounding counties.
Dr. McCroby, thank you for bringing that to back to our attention, and I am going to ask that we talk and think more specifically regarding this vibrant learning theme and how the arts are absolutely a part of that theme and how the arts connect with the other disciplines. My granddaughter told me just a few weeks ago that she submitted a final project in one of her design classes, and she said, you know, I guess I really am glad I took geometry. I mean, this is, it was like a reluctant acknowledgement that might really have been a good idea. But I think that, you know, we are not connecting, and when we bring the whole child concept into it, I mean, you're really talking about a huge role that the arts play that we need to make sure we're fulfilling in the best manner we can for every student. So please keep us disciplined, and we will talk more about the way we can incorporate that as one of our specific angles on this, because it is huge in the lives of so many of our students. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Todd.
March 14th, I attended a meeting with 12 Kentucky teachers. They're operating under a National Science Foundation funded grant for this Noyce Science Master Teachers, and they're spread across Kentucky. But these 12 teachers get 450 hours of training over a 5-year period. They get paid $13,000 a year each year they're in it. It's about a $2 million grant. It's between PIMSR and University of Ohio, Toledo, because no University of Kentucky would match the requirement that NSF asked for. So in order to try to get it, so we ended up with 12 master teachers here. They have only 8 up there because we had so many teachers to self-nominate themselves for this situation. And it's interesting to sit through the process. They used some open SciEd curriculum, but they proposed a problem, which was really bad weather condition in Texas, where 111 people were killed. So you throw up a map, and it's got some demographic information on there about how many deaths were in different counties, and just say, well, let's talk about what happened. And the kids start asking questions like, well, what kind of was rain, snow, sleet, what was it? You know, was it a power failure or whatever? But they just build up over a several-day period the questions about this particular circumstance. And they have a lot of vocabulary words that they keep track of as they go through this discussion. So as some teachers will say that if you really teach science the right way nowadays, it improves vocabulary, improves reading, because they've got some reason to remember that stuff. But it's very refreshing to see. They've dedicated 5 years, and it's fun just to see the way. I got some of the assessment materials and went through one of the tests, and it's interesting. They put up on the test for this one, they lay out a scenario and they ask you a series of questions, and you have to decide what's going on. When I got to the 4th question, I thought, I think I got the first one wrong. I got to go back. What I realized then, I'm thinking, you know, I'm not looking at an A, B, C, D, circle the thing and fill in the blanks. So there are ways that they're coming up with how to assess some of these more challenging ways to get information out. But it's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, so it's fascinating for me to hear you talk about there is the discipline, the academic discipline in the subject, but there is also the pedagogy, the discipline of teaching and the science of teaching that come together and make for these vibrant learning experiences. So I think we're seeing them, Holly, and it's I guess I hope we never take them for granted, because they don't happen unless they are intentional and designed to happen. But yeah, let's see what we got a lot of treasures here. Anybody else? Yes.
I have a really quick one. I have had 2 opportunities to speak about Kentucky United We Learn and the Moonshot, with the Kentucky School Boards Association. So last month, Superintendent Brian Kreisman from Fleming County and I presented again to the state board. We had a room full at the Galt House, probably 70 or 80 school board members from across the Commonwealth, and such energy and excitement around the conversation. So it was really well received. They've asked us to come back in August to keynote, to do a webinar podcast for them. But I just wanted to add this kind of energy that's happening at the grassroots community level is really powerful. And then I also had that opportunity to speak to Leadership Northern Kentucky. So it's always an honor to represent the work of this board.
Thank you. Randy,
Yeah,
please.
in addition, I always like that Julie has my notes before I start. But that's great.
right,
in
jump in.
Go
Yeah,
first.
in addition to that, every place I go, it's great. I see Julie. So we see each other a lot more outside of here than we do down here. But no, that's a great thing. So, but I did want to mention, in addition to that, on April 22nd in Northern Kentucky, we have our celebration of excellence in Northern Kentucky. And Commissioner will be speaking there briefly. You're all invited. I'll send an official invite to you. So if you have April 22nd, you want to come to dinner, hear Robbie. But the big thing is seeing the celebration of teachers. We'll honor over 35 teachers with Golden Apple Awards across Northern Kentucky, students against all odds and giving out scholarships, and business partners that partner with education to enhance the workforce development we honor. So it's just a great night that we celebrate education. There will be 500 to 600 people there at least. So if you want to come up, that'll be great to see everybody there. I also wanted to mention that I had the opportunity to Campbell County, Fort Thomas, Southgate, and Boone County in Northern Kentucky. We are really, we've had an unfortunate rash of some suicides up there, but those counties have really stepped up and has done mental health awareness for the community and working with students, and their efforts are to be applauded, because in this thing, you know, you have individuals saying, well, we shouldn't be working with students in social emotional skills and the other things, but I'm proud of the community stepping up and working with kids for social emotional skills and to try to decrease some of the mental health issues that are occurring with our students out there because of some of the things on the national level and other places. So those 4 school districts have really stepped up and are doing some amazing things, countering some of the outcry from others. And I think they should be applauded for that, stepping up for what's right.
Wow, the value of community
Yeah.
and to see the community engaged. Other comments?
Just one, Madam Chair. if you wouldn't.
Yes. Just
Uh,
please.
Glad we got to brag on Preston a little bit. I'd like to brag on another board member. Since I've been here, not even a year yet, you know, people have started finding out that, you know, you're on the board, so it becomes a topic of conversation. I can't tell you of an exact percentage, but I know it's north of 50% of the conversations that I have had. People have talked about how much Dr. Lou Young has meant to their life. And especially as it pertains to leadership. Just had a couple of conversations last week. 2 totally different people, random spots in my service region, and they wanted to highlight that Lou has meant something to them. So I just wanted to take a minute to brag on Lou and say thank you for not just a wonderful career in education, but a wonderful service to education and a life well lived. Thank you so much,
Thank
Lou.
you, so kind. Thank you.
Ditto that. 'Cause I bet all of us, if we made a pot of all the time that we have had someone say, "Oh, I used to work with Lou Young, isn't she?" I mean, you know, it everywhere you go. So we have a treasure, and you'd have a treasure if we could give you $1 for every one.
I had to wear a tiara.
Goodness. Yeah, that's right. Appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
At this time,
Robinson. I just have one
yes,
question.
go ahead.
There are a lot of events that are going on and initiatives, like the Persistence to Graduation. I've already signed up for that.
Good.
And different things I go to every year. Is there some stipulation, Todd may have to tell me this, that as far as a quorum and open meetings, if more than blank number of us showed up at an event, would there be an issue or problem?
So there is not an issue so long as the board members are not collectively getting together and discussing state business, that is, matters that would come before this board for a decision. But there's no problem with more than a quorum attending an event like that, so long as you don't gather and begin discussion of state business.
Is there some clearinghouse that the board has that we would be aware of several of these events that are happening and would be of interest to us? And I keep up with the ones that are in the Fayette County area because I can, I live there, but some of the ones that have been talked about today, I had no idea that they even existed. But would be wealth of information and knowledge for me to have as a board member as we come together and sit down and discuss issues and talk about them.
So, we have a work session set up next week, coming up soon, to talk about support for individual board members and board development. So let's put that on the list of things. Maybe we can have a calendar to which board members can contribute events in their community that others might find of interest. So, so you've brought to mind a tool that we can develop to support board engagement. Because the more we are engaged at the local level, the better our students are being served.
And the more validity we have when we are speaking with adults.
Yes, that too.
About what's happening.
Isn't that the truth? Thank you, Diane. That's a really good idea. We'll add that. We've asked to know your interest so that we can really be diligent about supporting those interests, because that's an area of service that you are contributing and we value it. So thank you for that. Anyone else? And I'm going to just assure you that when Robbie and Lou help me understand who wants to speak, it is a necessary service because I get focused on you and what you're saying, and it's like I'm not seeing the rest of the room. So understand that if I'm not paying attention, just get one of their attention, and that will help move us along. The next item on our agenda is our report from the council, the president of the Council on Post-Secondary Education, Aaron Thompson, who is not here today, but his report is in the portal, and we ask that you please attend to it. We will not have the benefit of Aaron's energy at this meeting, but I think we got enough to move it along, and Secretary Link, who will be bringing his report at this time. Thank you, Secretary Lee.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Keeping with the basketball theme very quickly, I think Lawrence County plays this afternoon at 1:30, don't they? So we'll be sure to adjourn before then.
Are you
Get
racing out of
Get him
here?
out of here.
She's not here.
Okay, I'm
Sharon,
watching.
you're not here.
Okay.
Sharon, you missed a very important thing over here. Go back and tell her. Got to be done by 1:30. Lawrence County is planned at 2:16, and you missed it.
No,
My
Another
report will
reason
be
to be
brief.
done on time.
Travel time, Randy,
I'm
travel
not gonna
time.
miss it.
I'll go
Yeah,
quickly.
by 12, be good.
You're right.
Best time of year. And the University of Kentucky, of course, plays tomorrow night. So with the General Assembly back in town, my hope is they'll want to go see the UK game at 7:30 tomorrow night, and they may adjourn, sign, and die a little early. I think everyone's will be glad when that's over. Speaking of the legislative session for the cabinet, like anything, some good and not so good that came out of the legislation for the cabinet. Our reorganization bill that we've been trying for a couple of years passed, and I raised that because one new creation that we got in the reorg was the creation of a division of workforce talent. And we're going to have 10 dedicated workforce talent managers that will work with their counterparts in the Economic Development Cabinet, who also has 10 project managers. And those two individuals will be working directly with companies to address not only their economic development needs, but also their workforce development needs, putting the focus on what the employers need and how can the workforce system, as I mentioned yesterday, how can the workforce system better address that company's individual needs, from small business to large corporations. So I consider that a win that we got. There was also some helpful workers' compensation legislation that we've been trying to get through that better helps claimants and employers with their workers' compensation needs. Regrettably, we did have some unfortunate legislation passed that prevents the cabinet from enforcing Kentucky-specific worker safety protections, but we'll continue to work on that. You know, it's a long game. So there'll be another session here in 9 months, and we'll come back at that. Then, of course, like everyone, we continue to watch what happens with the federal government. Our cabinet has a significant level of federal funding, and actions over the past couple of months have increased the uncertainty of what's going on with federal funding, as I'm sure the department is watching closely as well. So we continue to watch the actions from the federal government and working with our federal partners, from Department of Labor to Department of Education to the Department of Commerce and others. We stay in close contact to try to stay ahead of what's going to happen, or at least be prepared for what's going to happen. The cabinet has played a somewhat minor role. We don't respond to disasters like other cabinets in state government, transportation, and others. But we do have people at disaster recovery centers across the region to help people with unemployment insurance assistance. And we've also supplied a significant amount of personal protective equipment to those who are helping recover, cleanup, and things like that. So we play a minor role, but I think it's an important role as well. I would like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Todd. I've talked to the board about Everybody Counts and our high school career coaching program. Dr. Todd has been kind enough to work with our team on that and provide some expertise and assistance. Obviously, with our bandwidth, we don't have the resources to put career coaches, if they wish, in every school, every high school across the Commonwealth. We are currently in 6 counties and adding 3 more in the for the 2025-26 school year. But one of the things that we have developed is a playbook, we call it, of how we've built this program. And the goal is that should a district be interested, we would be glad to provide that playbook to them to help provide a roadmap if they would like to explore implementation of a similar program in their districts with their employer community and with their students. And Dr. Todd has reviewed that and providing us feedback. I think we're meeting next Wednesday, as a matter of fact, to go over that again. We'll, of course, run that through our approval process, and once we have the final copy, I'd be happy to share that with the board. And of course, we'll share it with any school district that may have an interest in pursuing something like that. And I did want to mention yesterday, forgot to mention that one aspect of this is entrepreneurship. We didn't touch upon that yesterday, but Julie, I think you mentioned a young person that has done something, and I want to learn more about that, because I could use $3,500 a month if I was smart enough to come up with something like that. On the apprenticeship front, we do have a new executive director for our apprenticeship program that we're very excited to have, and we expect great things. Obviously, apprenticeship is another pathway for young people, or even not so young people, to pursue a new career. This morning, I normally have a bi-weekly update for the governor on what's going on with the Blue Oval SK plant down in Glendale. Of course, I've had the good fortune of working with and getting to know Dr. Pate and the collaboration between Blue Oval and the cabinet and ECTC. And I learned this morning that there's a new program between ECTC and U of L Engineering to develop a new program to not only address Blue Oval SK, but to provide engineering education for people that could be very valuable, not only in that region, but elsewhere. So acknowledge you for that. Thank you for that. The last item I'll mention is the SWAT initiative, the statewide workforce and talent team. We are looking now, we have a meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, how do we expand this program across the state? We've had pilot projects in Logan County, in Hart County with some major employers in those counties. They've gone very well. So now it's time to expand and socialize this concept across the state with economic developers, chambers of commerce, and workforce professionals, as well as the community or the employer community. So we're working, there's a Metals, MI2 Metals Institute that we're going to start working with, as well as the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers and the Kentucky Hospital Association, to start expanding the SWAT initiative all across the state. So very excited about that, and hopefully it's a legacy not only for this administration, but it puts Kentucky, I think, at the forefront. We did have a convening in December with about 300 people from across the state attend. And we also had Deloitte and Ernst & Young do presentations, and both of those major national and global companies said they're not seeing anything like what Kentucky's doing in this regard, where we're bringing together the economic developers, workforce developers, chambers of commerce, education system, bringing them all together to work in collaboration with one another to address the career pathways for people as well as what employers need, and matching those two together. So still a lot of work to do. I think it's that part of the project. There's great enthusiasm at the beginning and great optimism, and then the reality starts to set in, and you can't let the momentum wane. We have to keep up the momentum and even increase it. So that's what we're looking to do in this next phase. So very happy about that, and I would be happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Do we have questions? Secretary Link, I always am struck by the extent of the thoughtfulness and what deliberate effort to collaborate and bring these various perspectives into to the table to address these issues. And the SWAT team idea is fascinating. Would love to know more, but I'll ask Dr. Todd to make his comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Secretary Link's presentation. These people that they put in place to really do some career management would be important, because high school counselors are full to the top with stuff they have to do, but who's really got in touch with not only the existing base of opportunities that are out there, but what's coming, because we've got to be looking a little bit forward as well. And to find somebody that can sit there and be able to work outside the school system to talk to the potential employers, and then come back in and talk to the students and the students' teachers about how to position that particular student to do something that they might not even think about. So I applaud that effort.
Thank you.
Other comments? Well, I know that your folks are, we're happy to have your folks working with Justin and being a part of the team as we look at this transforming the high school experience. Dr. Fletcher, your report, please.
Thank you, Chair Robinson. And to add on to what Secretary Link said, as commissioner, one of the blessings is being able to witness what's going on across the Commonwealth. And one of the things that has really opened my eyes as we move forward is the willingness of different groups to have partnerships to help our students. For example, our career technical system tries to find ways to help out. For example, our apprenticeship program that we're doing with teachers. How do we make sure we get dual credit to our students, but also to continue that maybe into other four-year colleges also too, and two-year colleges, career technical. It's all working together. It's not about, just like we talked about yesterday, It's not about career technical or a four-year program. It's how do we work together to get our students what they need. So I've been truly amazed by the efforts and the flexibility within the Commonwealth from different organizations that want to help to make the future better for our students. And I just wanted to emphasize that, again, talking about partnerships with Career Technical, but also with our four-year, our universities and of that nature, has been a blessing to see and to be a small part of as we move forward. So thank you for pointing that out. But also, too, I want to take the opportunity to emphasize some things we talked about yesterday. And first and foremost, furthering the Kentucky United We Learn vision is and advocating for the importance of a transformed educational experience for every student in the Commonwealth is our top priority. As commissioner, as a board, that's our top priority that we have. And the Kentucky Department of Education members and myself, we've listened to stakeholders across the Commonwealth. We talked about the town halls. We've talked about not only town halls, but the Seek Roadshow, to listen to what's going on, to also to provide information. But we've listened a lot about how do we have different approaches to assessment and accountability. A bubble test is not going to get the best from our kids. It's not. A bubble test is not. So how do we change that and have a different approach and to hear the ideas that's going on throughout the Commonwealth that is starting in our schools? This was not something that was mandated by KDE. This was not something that was mandated by our legislature. This is grassroots effort where you're seeing districts really trying to focus in on what's best for kids and then growing them into lifelong learners, but also problem solvers, communicators, collaborators. It's all around that portrait of learner work. So very, very thankful for that. But also, too, I really appreciate the effort that the Kentucky United We Learn Council, our board, also KDE, has gone through and taking those, everything from meetings, surveys, focus groups, town halls, just to develop the framework of where we are now. And thank you for the board for the input from yesterday. I thought that was a very productive conversation. And again, I think that this board takes very seriously the responsibility of making the future brighter for our students. So I really appreciate that. This allows us a lot more leverage, a lot more information as we go talk to the General Assembly. Once we have different districts, all of our districts are talking to their legislators, but also to our community partners, business leaders are getting on board. This allows us to build those relationships with General Assembly, not only from just going walking across the river, but in their home districts, which is so important. But also, too, wanted to point out that the journey to our latest assessment accountability framework has been built on inclusion, empathy, reciprocity, and co-creation. And something that I was very pleased to share the data yesterday from our Cool Council. As a commissioner, you feel like you're doing the right things. You feel like you're trying to follow that, but also, too, you want to make sure that that's what your stakeholders are seeing. And to see that was something that was very reassuring as commissioner. So I appreciate that. But also, too, this goes back to the 2023 call to action. This is what this board's vision, this is how we want to move forward with those four main priorities, those four main avenues for developing the accountability framework. But again, I really think the route that we're going, and we're bringing about a new era in education, whether it be with partnerships, whether it be with collaboration, whether it be with accountability, assessment, and now assessment and accountability doesn't seem like a curse word anymore. It seems like a driver. It seems like something that is aiding our districts to get where they want to be. So again, that's where we want to move. That's where we want to go. But also, too, I want to take an opportunity to highlight the All In for Ag Week last week. That was so much fun. If there's one person that may have energy that compares to Chair Robinson, it might be Commissioner Shell. It might be. So and you talk about a gentleman that is so full of energy. I was exhausted after working with Commissioner Shell, but also, too, our Lieutenant Governor. We had the opportunity to visit so many districts, so many schools, and to see what was going on, and it was great. I want to take the opportunity to thank our OCTE, our Office of Career Technical, but also for our Office of Teaching and Learning for the work that they've done to make this possible. So not only make it possible to have our input, and we didn't want to make this another burden for teachers, and that's what we've got to look at moving forward. These are the right steps to take. This is what makes teaching enjoyable. not only learning enjoyable for students, but also makes teaching enjoyable. That might be our best recruiter. You know, I've talked about other districts that are producing engineers on a regular basis, producing teachers, producing doctors, lawyers. And I'm talking about our schools that are producing these students that are getting on those pathways. And again, all in for ag, I was amazed by how many times that I walked into a classroom and a student told me, I want to be an ag teacher. I want to be an ag teacher. If I can't be an ag teacher, I want to be a music teacher, or vice versa. They were coming up with different things and talking to me about it. As a matter of fact, I made a few posts last week of as a byproduct of the All In for Ag, I took some pictures with some future educators from PRP and posted that and talked about their story. So as we were going through, I also had opportunities to say, okay, what do you want to teach? I did find one math teacher, by the way, so I was so thankful. Did find one math teacher. He said, but that's my fallback. I said, well, what's your main? He said, social studies. I bless your heart. So anyway.
You're going to get mail.
But that being said, to see these students in the classroom, see that passion, and again, All In for Ag was a great experience to see the students interact, to see, for example, one classroom, they were designing automatic feeders for cattle, and then how did they operate, and what did they do? That's engineering as part of ag, and I think that's the thing that opened eyes for so many people is ag is not just about farming and going out and plowing the ground. It's also about the technology behind it. It's about the science of what goes into the soil, also the drones that monitor. So there's so many things, the business, the economy, we've talked about how we need economists that have ag backgrounds and how does that all impact. So All In for Ag was truly about building that one experience. So I was really thankful for that. It was a great time. I can't say enough about it. But also, too, I want to take an opportunity to talk about our state schools for just a second. Next slide, please. Our Kentucky School for the Blind participated in the Kentucky Regional Braille Challenge on February 27th. And many students placed first, second, and third in categories, so very thankful for that. Also like to, I had a warm welcome to our new staff member with Mr. Mullins, our black Labrador Retriever, Guinness. So he's part of the staff now with Mr. Mullins. So very thankful for that. Also, our vibrant learning continues to shine in the Kentucky School for the Deaf, where students worked hard on bringing the Iditarod Trail sled dog race to life on campus. Again, amazing opportunities here. They also did things where they were crafting the Northern Lights, experiencing the thrill of being a musher through the virtual reality, and creating a topography map of Alaska with the Iditarod Trail map are just a few examples of their learning. Again, vibrant learning. It's great to be a part of. At our area technology centers, congratulations to Hayden Young of Trailblazer Early College and Career Academy. Hayden won first place out of 70 welders at the Bluegrass Welding Series Gas Metal Arc Welding Competition. And welders have a special place in my heart, so congratulations to Hayden. Excellent work. Also to highlight, the Greenup County ATC students in FFA sold 121 animals and brought $225,000 at the Greenup County Fair. And congratulations to Abby Emmel for being the #1 FFA Junior Dairy Judge in the state. So again, some great things that are going on. Again, vibrant learning. The last thing too I want to talk a little bit about is when we look at on the federal government level, I'm thankful to say first and foremost, we've received all of our funding. Processes are changing. Points of contacts are changing. And I want to thank our department for adapting to those to make sure that we see as little impact to our districts as possible. One of the biggest changes is the reimbursement process for ESSER and CARES funding. We are still sending that funding out to districts, even though the process has changed at the national level. We haven't received those funds, but we've been assured that they will be there. So to this point, we haven't lost funding. As a matter of fact, one of the areas that we're really concerned about was our Kentucky, our KYCL grant that was $55 million for literacy. We did receive our first year of information for that. But on the other hand, there are some concerns for us, a lot of concerns, especially as it comes to technical assistance, as it relates back to the processes and points of contact. There's different areas behind the scenes where we may get professional development, or we may get research from, for example, the rails closing down. The regional educational laboratories, their job is to provide research that informs policy. Now that group is closed down. So where does the educational research come from? We've also talked about within our group, moving it back to the local control, but what changes have there been in federal regulation? So if they're really going to look at local control, there has to be changes in federal regulation too to allow that local control at a better level. With that being said, we go back to trying to be a buffer for our districts to make sure that the day-to-day operations, we allow them the flexibility and freedom and give them the support that's necessary as we move forward. But no matter what happens at the federal level, our goal remains the same. We have 3 pillars that we're going to move forward with, and we've said this for 2 days now: vibrant learning, innovation and accountability, collaboration with communities. We're going to keep that North Star as we continue forward and do the best for our kids as we can. Again, does it provide a lot of, to say the very least, shaky ground and some uncharted territory? Absolutely. But on the other hand, to this point, the funding is there, and I want to thank our department for taking on some extra burden on how to make these things happen and flowing that funds from one level to another. So again, I appreciate that. There is a full report in the board portal, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Fletcher. Are there questions for the commissioner? I do want to say it is reassuring, to put it mildly, when you are in a time of ambiguity and perhaps even a bit of threat, to know where you're going and how to channel your energy and your efforts is truly the way to get through it. Because James Baldwin said, you can't abdicate responsibility. And I believe that this board has embraced responsibility to fulfill our goals and to address what our reality might be, including the challenges of that reality. So, Commissioner, I appreciate your report, which kind of keeps us absolutely grounded in the good earth, the good foundation of our dedication to our students. Thank you so much. Board members, let's get into some of our other business, our action and discussion agenda. And I will ask Todd to come forward with the Commissioner of KHSAA at Julian Taggett and the General Counsel, Chad Collins.
Say Julian's not
Oh,
here.
Julian's on the screen. Thank you.
There he is. Oh, I was going to say, I thought you'd be at the basketball tournament, but you are.
That is exactly where he is.
Guess where you are.
All of a sudden, I look down, and that's a big picture. They got a new screen here, Julian. It's not about you, but I mean, it's big when we look at it.
Well, I apologize. Having a face for radio, that's probably not something they want to see. But thank you all.
Well, thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Yes.
The item before the board this morning is the amendment to the regulation that designates KHSAA as the board's agent to manage middle and high school interscholastic athletics. And this is a routine annual presentation that you all receive and request to amend the regulation, because KHSAA, as part of the regulation, goes through a process annually where it meets with its member schools, requests feedback on changes that are recommended, and then incorporates changes that are recommended by its Board of Control, and then brings those to this board and asks you to adopt them as amendments to the regulation. The regulation itself, the body of the regulation, doesn't really change. Really, the changes are in the material incorporated by reference, the documents that are attached thereto. And we did have a last-minute swap out of 2 forms in order to comply with some changes that occurred in Senate Bill 120 from this current legislative session. So we've sent those to the board and noted them in your materials. I will turn it over to KHSAA Commissioner Tackett as well as Chad Collins from KHSAA to highlight the changes in the materials.
Well, real briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Commissioner Tackett because I know he'll want to give it a broad overview. As Todd indicated, we needed to basically enact some changes based on when we come together in September every year as all of our member schools to vote on some changes in the bylaws. This year, two votes that took place. One was when students fail to make sufficient academic progress, they're not on their grade level, they have to serve a period of ineligibility. And formerly, that was the entire grading period for that specific school district. And as you guys all know, that different districts have different periods. Some use trimester, some use semester, some use full grade, the full academic year. And so we saw that was limiting or maybe making the minimum period that they would be ineligible maybe a little inequitable when you look at it across the state. So what this has done is it basically puts us back, gives some local control to the districts, to the schools to kind of control that with some parameters set forth in the bylaw itself. Another change deals with our sport activities, things like archery, bass fishing. What we were seeing across some of the schools is that they had a very, very long period of time that was far outpacing that of some of our other traditional offerings. So we've tried to put a more hard date of when they would start to make it a bit more equitable when compared to some other sports that we might have. We also had to come back and look at some of the recent activity in our General Assembly and make sure we were updating our policies and the bylaws. Some of those specific changes include Bylaw 10 that deals with our bylaw that requires people to be amateurs and restricts what they can receive in terms of benefits. Senator Wise has been captaining legislation through the General Assembly as it relates mostly to our collegiate colleagues, but certainly he has been very open with us in helping us make sure that we can maintain control of things at the high school level. Representative Moser and Representative Palumbo also passed a bill last year relating to health and safety. I'm sure most people know there's been a real emphasis on emergency action plans across the state, the use of AEDs, and this bill really kind of takes this step forward and requires the practicing of the emergency action plan and the use of AEDs on a seasonal basis for our coaches. And what we have found is that is critical. We're sitting down at Rupp Arena this week. We too live by this, and we brought our staff together. We brought our sports safety folks together, and we practiced and got the plan going. So if unfortunately we have to enact that plan, we know that we are ready to do that for the health and safety of the students and the attendants. Lastly, Mr. Allen talked about a recent legislation that is looks like it's going to go through Senate Bill 120 that requires the Kentucky High School Athletic Association to work on some education and reminding our coaches that they are mandatory reporters and get some training for that. That training for our public school coaches is something that they already receive. This maybe reaches into the non-public school sphere, which is a good thing to make sure that they too understand their role. And then there's a component where every year a student has to get a physical, and we take that opportunity to make sure that we inform the students and their families of some important things. And this is one of those things that we're adding to that, making sure that we tell them that their coaches are mandatory reporters, and we tell them how to get education, how to report things when they see things. The focus here is just making sure that the health and safety of the students does not get lost in the ideas of competition. Commissioner Tackett, I think you wanted to kind of ring in.
a couple of things, and thanks to both our council, Chad, and Todd Allen's been a great partner for our office, working with Chad and David Couch and Dr. Foster and several others that work with us on a daily basis. So we take very seriously the state board's delegation of the authority on athletics. We know that athletics is never a big issue in a district until it's a big issue in a district, and so we take a lot. So we feel like we take some arrows and potentially some lightweight bullets for the department by doing that function, and we have for many years. They've hit you on the technical things. I know that everybody would probably like to have this regulation a little bit earlier in the year, prepared for next year, but as we found again this year, the legislature has a way of making athletics issues a very high priority and wanting them in immediately. So we really appreciate the department working with us and the state board working with us on the timing of this regulation so we can be sure that change is in place. For the future, I think everybody who has been in a batter's box in Little League is an expert on sports, and everybody is lamenting what's going on at the college level with the portal and with the open movement and the lack of commitment, et cetera. We are, as Chad said, we worked very, very long and hard with Senator Wise and other advocates on NIL to make sure that is not in the high school space. I can tell you, however, one of the issues we're facing, and our board's been looking at different options for proposal for a little over a year now, is with the movement of students after they've played. What we are finding very challenging, as we kind of predicted a couple of years ago, is a legislative tone about we want open choice. We want some choice for students in education, some accountability for the final product, let people make choices. And yet we're stuck in the position of adding to that sentence, unless you play sports. And so I think our board's been trying to find what the proper balance is. We're looking at things going on around the country. Our board is emphatic. We do not have any desire to have a one-time transfer at this point where everybody can just leave because they get mad at the coach and things don't go right, even if it is part of choice. But where can we then factor in the choice element that seems to be the tone and tenor right now? And we know those pendulums swing. If I'm in Dr. Poe's area, there's already a lot of movement of students. There's lots of education options up there. It's probably not unheard of that there are people moving around. If I'm in a different district where I'm in a county that only has one education option, then you don't feel like that's the pressure point. We're trying to strike that balance. What can we do? We know that at the end of the day, about 70% of the people who apply for athletic eligibility after having already played become eligible through the process, whether it's a due process hearing, an initial ruling where they've actually moved, or something like that. Those are the ones you all hear about. That's bylaw 6, the transfer rule. That's what everybody likes to talk about. So about 70% are becoming eligible at some point. A legislator who proposed an open transfer asked me the question during the session after he proposed an open one-time transfer, said, if 70% are getting eligible, why don't 100% get one? And my reply was, our membership feels like that 30% probably doesn't need to be eligible. That's the athletic advantage piece. That's people who are not going for education reasons. They're probably going for other reasons. Maybe they were enticed. Maybe there's things going on. So I think you all can see already it is a challenging thing for our board and our staff to try to come up with an alternative. What our plan is to finish that review by early summer so that we will have proposals for changing our rules for next year's September membership meeting. Let's see, can we get something that we feel like will work for several years, that works with, performance and accountability, but at the same time doesn't create athletic power kingdoms where you get what's going on at the college level now with tremendous separation between successful and non-successful programs. So can we find that balance? We also want to work towards something that if our membership decides it's not what they want, maybe it is the middle ground that the legislature would go for. So we're very familiar, as Dr. Fletcher and I talked in a recent conversation, we're familiar with, the interaction with the legislature and with their intent is not not your conversation with one person. It's constantly finding out, constantly talking and communicating. And I know that that's a real project of his, and it certainly has been one of mine. So we're going to try to strike this balance. We'll be updating you along the way. There's actually a resolution that passed the House with a unanimous vote directing us to do a study on how many transfers we're having and where they're coming from and focal areas. They've given us a December deadline. We feel like we're going to have to complete that by July for our own board, so we're going to accelerate that. But that's a 3-minute explanation that you probably didn't need to hear, didn't want to hear. But I hope you appreciate it's an issue that as I said, and as Dr. Young and I've talked so many times, most superintendents and school leaders, athletics is just a secondary part of your school unless it becomes the primary because of something that goes wrong. So we want to try to strike that balance for you. Apologize for taking too long, Chair Robinson, but I wanted to give you that brief overview of what's kind of going on in addition to the rec.
Chair, can I
Well,
ask
yes.
when you're done?
Mr. Tackett, it's really, I appreciate the opportunity to understand the broader context and to know that we're kind of all in the same boat, trying to manage the conflicting interests that bear on academics and athletics, and know that these are essential components of our community and the high school experience, middle school. Yes, Dr.
Yeah,
Cole.
Dr. Tack, thanks for that last minute, 3 minutes, because I think it's very important what you just said, because I applaud you in your efforts in the board in that, because some of these things are tearing apart the communities, and we're not going to go into those, and you know what those are. And it's a shame because, just as you said, athletics is secondary, and we build team sportsman leadership and all that from that. But unfortunately, because of some of the things that's been created by the legislature, we have communities being torn apart. So I do appreciate hearing that, because, I mean, it's getting unruly in some of the stands out there, people of recruitment and the other things. So thank you for what you're trying to do, because I've seen that firsthand, and it's an ugly experience out there. So thank you for what you're doing.
Good.
Todd, I will turn back to you. Are we ready for questions and comments from the board?
I think so. Any questions that you all may have?
I am going to be asking the board for a motion to approve the amendment to 702 KAR 7065, designation of agent to manage middle and high school interscholastic athletics.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Then the motion carries, and we have the amended regulation. Thank you, Dr. Tackett. Thank you all for the work that you do to help rationalize and support engagement of our students in organized sports. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For your collaboration.
Thank you.
So we go from the field of engagement in athletics to the field of engagement in the General Assembly, and I'll ask the Commissioner and Brian Perry to come to the table for our legislative update.
Okay, cool.
Before Dr. Perry goes through, I want to say this. I'm very thankful that my very first year as commissioner is part of a short session of only 1,000 bills, 200 of which are related to education. So, again, that was something that very thankful for. It was a short session. But with that being said, I will say that to add to that, the process as I was going through and looking at how bills are put together, and how they happen. Again, I want to go back and thank the department. There's been so many opportunities for us to walk through doors that have been opened. Started with, I believe, with Dr. Kenny and the work that she did to open some relationships. So I'm very thankful for what Robin did and to open those up. But also, too, thankful for the opportunity that we've had to have conversations. We've had several meetings with several legislators. We've gone through, I think, a very large portion of the Senate Education Committee. We've worked with some of the House Education Committee and others outside. You know, I've walked into a meeting with maybe one or two legislators, and by the time we're finished, it's 5 or 6 legislators. So, but again, we may not agree on items. We may not agree on everything, but at least the doors are open, and we're having discussions, and we're able to work with our legislators. So again, thankful not only for those doors being open, but also thankful for the department, because there's so many within this department that are working with legislators and getting questions and answering questions on a timely basis. The hardest part for us is when they flood, when there's a large push at the end. How do we have input on so many different topics as we move forward? But anyway, with that being said, I want to thank the department, thank our leadership team, and others that are a large part. Everything from when we talk about finance, we get past the associate commissioner, and we talk about Che and others within the department, and Matt, but also, hated I mention names, but so many that work so diligently with our state legislators. So I'm very thankful for that. That being said, I'll turn it over to Dr. Perry to give us some updates as we move forward.
Sure. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. Just as a reminder, tomorrow's the last day, sine die, before they adjourn. So barring that, they won't be back in session until January unless the governor calls them to special session. Nothing on the radar at this time. So we'll roll quickly into the interim starting in June and start working towards the budget section in 26. All right. I included a little bit of this here just in case our new member wanted to make sure he had all the information. So get you up to speed. So we'll quickly go through this. This is just where you can watch the different committees and find all the bills. Okay, next slide. Also, just wanted to, again, remind our new member, we had a big change in the House before the session started. They split the Education Committee, so we now have a primary and secondary Education Committee led by Scott Lewis, who's a former superintendent, and then the post-secondary Education Committee led by Chair Tipton, who led the previously unified committee. It's worked out pretty well. We've really had bills in both chambers. Primarily, they're sending the EPSB-related bills, as one would expect, to the post-secondary committee. So been over there a few times for those bills. Most everything else has flowed through primary and secondary. Still haven't heard word on how they'll divvy up the interim calendar. Traditionally, the House and Senate education chairs just split months. So we'll see how that works heading into this interim. So next slide. Just again, for reference, there's the members of each committee. Next slide. All right, so a lot of legislation moved to the governor's desk right before the veto period. It had been a fairly slow session until the end, and quite a few things reached his desk. So here's some of the ones that were signed. So on this one, I think really the one that I'll talk about quickly is SB 77. This was one that ACUS, the Independent College and Universities, had asked for and had worked with the sponsor on in getting a designee from their institutions related to the EPP programs at their institutions appointed to the board. So just clarifying that OELE and EPSB were fully in support of that change. So glad to see that one move along. Next slide, please. So here we'll talk about, just quickly want to mention 193. This cleans up some dual credit scholarship language. I mention this because what bill that you all had sort of put on your priority list back in the fall, which was related to the Work Ready Scholarship, we did see a bill get filed, SB 253. It would make some really amazing changes to the way that the teacher scholarship pipeline works. It would expand the dual credit offerings to allow for a student in the teaching and learning pathway to get an associate's degree before they graduate. And then the teacher scholarship would kick in on the post-secondary side once they were admitted to the EPP. So really would set up a pathway for a student to get a bachelor's degree in education with no tuition charge. So that would be amazing. That bill's not going to move, but it was a good first step to get it introduced. We had some good conversation. I wanted to mention 193 here because this was one of the first bills I worked on when I started in Frankfort about 8 or 9 years ago. So hopefully it won't take that long. but I just wanted to point out that it sometimes does take a process to make these big changes. So 241, I'm sure you all have seen and discussed already. So two sides of this bill. 241 started out as the relief bill for districts. We've had a very unusual year in terms of weather and other disruptions for school districts. So we needed to give them some flexibility to amend their calendars. 241 does that in its initial language, and we are fully supportive of that and glad to see that become effective and give the relief to school districts. It got amended along the way to add in Senate Bill 268. That was the virtual school bill or virtual program bill. So we have one district that we have discussed over the past several years that has had a virtual program that has grown exponentially. It got over 3,000 students before the end of last year. It's dipped a little below that now, I think, but they were in-person enrollments around 200. So this has caused some problems. There's been some issues. The department proposed an agency amendment to the virtual school reg that was moving through the process that would have put in a 10% cap on virtual programs, so no more than 10% of your in-person enrollment. Pretty straightforward. We based that number on the fact that no other virtual program in the state was anywhere near 10%. 6 or 7 was the next biggest numbers after Cloverport. So seemed pretty logical. General Assembly did not take that up. And so 268 was sort of their reaction to that. Now, it did eventually go to a free conference committee, 241 did. What came out is very complicated as it relates to virtual programs. So there's a 1% statewide enrollment cap now for virtual programs with some exceptions for military-dependent children.
Yeah, it's a 1% cap for
non-resident.
virtual students.
Yeah, non-resident
Yeah,
virtual
statewide.
enrollment. Yeah.
Statewide.
So with some exceptions for siblings that are enrolled in the same non-resident virtual program, military-dependent children, and then the big loophole is those that have a note from a medical provider saying that they need a full-time virtual program for some medical reason. So we'll be charged as a department to kind of monitor this. We're beginning to work through that process. It does put in some guardrails as it relates to virtual programs in excess of 2,000 students, which again, right now is just one. Yeah, it's complicated and we'll work through it. I don't know if we want to talk more about it.
I will add there some. Let's go back to the 241 original portion that was added in. That I want to point out that adds a lot more work to KDE. But we're happy to do this because it does help districts. When I talk about this, there were a smaller part that wasn't a selling point for most of our districts, honestly, there was an addition of 5 additional NTI lock days, I'll say, that we handled the same thing as NTI. That was not the most important part of the bill, but the incentive for districts not to use those is that a district could drop their lowest 10 days of attendance in their seat calculation. So they're there moving forward because they're not retroactive. If you move forward and you don't utilize one of those 5 NTI days, then a district could drop their lowest 10 on their average daily attendance for seat calculations. Now I may have to pull out my old scientific TI-83 calculator to help out on this calculation, but there will be some work there. But again, it's helping districts. Our Office of Financial Operations are willing to help out there as much as possible. So that was one of the finer areas of 241 that some people missed. I mentioned this to some superintendents. They didn't really see that. I mentioned it to KVAC, and we also put this out in guidance to all our districts. And going back to 268, there is a lot of work that items we're going to have to figure out as far as the 1% cap. To add to that, if statewide you get to 0.085%, then we are asking all districts to put a cap on their non-resident virtual programs unless there is an exemption for the a family member / or military student or a student of a military family or the medical exemption. So then that would be a statewide. It's not just saying one school has a cap, the entire state has a cap. So then what does that look like as we move forward? Who do we hold? Who do we not hold? So there's a lot of things that are in there that are just, it's going to be how do you manage that?
So would it be like a child count day or?
We have to publish the what would be the 1% number from the previous year on our website, I believe is the case. And then once you get to the 0.085, then we have to let everybody know. So the previous year 1% would have to be published on our website so that people know what that 1% is.
So I'm not following that. So what's it do? I mean, what's the 1% cap do? I guess we don't know.
Essentially, you're looking at around 6,000 you can only have 6,000 non-resident virtual students statewide. 6,003, whatever 1% of our student population is.
Okay, so if you go to 1.2, I mean, what power or authority do you have to stop anybody from going from here to there? I mean, it seems like they implemented something we can't control.
Yeah.
It says we
Right.
freeze it. That's what it says.
Okay. That's what I just.
Exactly.
Okay. It's one of those feel-good things for them to say we gapping something when they really didn't, because there's no authority of this board to say you can't do that. They made that very clear in the other case. Correct?
Well, there's other stipulations in there that we're going to start our more communications with the district. For example, they are frozen if a district is frozen if you're in the bottom 5%. So the elementary school in question is in the bottom 5%. That is so that would be we do freeze there, but as soon as they come out of that, then they're open back up for business.
Yeah, it's complicated, so we'll work through it. I think there will be some continuing conversations in the interim as it relates to virtual programs. There's been a number of kind of topics raised that they want to discuss, I think, in the interim. So things like class size requirements and teacher hours as it relates and how it relates from the classroom setting to the virtual setting, and whether those regulations and rules should be the same for virtual programs as it is in person. So I think that there'll be some conversations in the interim, and we'll likely see some version of a virtual bill next year as well, I think, as they continue to discuss this.
And to add to that, not only with virtual programs, but also NTI days. What are the more, what exactly are the requirements and general requirements for NTI days? That's another part of this. They've lumped it all together.
Hey, it's another question, Chair Robinson.
Please, go ahead.
Have they ever figured out the fact that, they, in the NTI days or 10 days, that districts that's growing in enrollment that's no benefit because you can't calculate that, or you used to never be able to calculate that for a growing district because the ADA is a moving target, so you don't know which day is that. Have they ever corrected that, or?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
All right, we'll roll on.
Moving right along.
Oh, go back just real quick. So 251 is another one that we had asked for in conjunction with CPE. CPE had been tasked with the evaluation of EPPs. We thought that should live with the EPSB and OELE here. So that's what this change is making, or the changes being made in 251. 263, just quickly, it's kind of an odd bill. They're wanting to make sure that a student teacher that would otherwise qualify for the student teaching scholarship or stipend gets that if they're out of state. So I guess somebody in northern Kentucky goes across the river, they want to make sure that they qualify. 342 adds a 1 credit financial literacy requirement for graduation, starting with the incoming class in 26-27, or incoming high school class of 26-27. All right, next slide. So we had a number of vetoes. Just as a reminder, it only takes a simple majority vote in each chamber to override a veto, with supermajorities in both chambers. Almost certainly, we'll see all of these overridden today and tomorrow. Go to the next slide. So as of last night when I sent this to Dr. Jones, we had a number of bills that were still awaiting action. So 208 and 298 were signed. The rest were vetoed. Of those, 240 is a holdback bill. So it started out as a kindergarten holdback bill, got amended to be permissive at kindergarten, requires holdback at first grade if the student is not on grade level by the end of the year. Then 19, a moment of silence bill that we've seen many times before, makes it mandatory. And then it also added in a moral instruction bill that was out there. That just allows districts to offer or allow students to go on for moral instruction off campus 1 hour a week. So that one was vetoed as well. 207 was a bill that we talked a lot about with the sponsor and others as it moved through the process. This was half of Senate Bill 5. So 2 years ago, we had some legislators at a conference in Charleston, South Carolina, visit a school of innovation there. That sparked a lot of conversations about this and leads us to 207. It really doesn't do anything, or doesn't allow for anything new. It does move the innovation tag from the district level to a singular school level, so we can have a school within a district now get tagged as a school of innovation and allow for various waivers to go through for that school. Perhaps more importantly, in a more interest, it got an amendment late with language that the department had been working on. We saw a number of bills related to curriculum get filed this session, in part because last year we saw a report come out related to the State Textbook Commission statute. That goes way back to the 50s, I believe, but it hadn't met in about a decade because it had been defunded. In the meantime, Office of Teaching and Learning had really worked to reimagine what that process looks like. And so the report that came out basically said they either needed to update the statute to reflect what was happening or for the department to go back and follow what was currently in statute with the State Textbook Commission. What's in 207 will codify the State Quality Curriculum Task Force, which is kind of that group that has been reimagined over the years. They will point to or develop a list of high-quality instructional resources that are green rated, meaning they align at least 80% with the Kentucky academic standards. They will go into a depository. Districts will then be able to pick off of that list. The depository will allow for external stakeholders, parents, community members to see and review the curriculum that is selected for their schools. So that'll be something that's been kind of asked for a while now. The other interesting part about that depository is it allows for test scores to be more closely tied with the curriculum being used. So we'll have better data as it relates to curriculum and test score alignment. So the statute does also allow for districts to go off list. So if a district wanted to pilot a new HQIR that hadn't yet been green rated, they could. But that new process of aligning with test scores will really allow us to see how effective that new curriculum is. Now, because this is not a budget session, there is no funding attached to 207 right now. However, it does include language that does allow for the commissioner to purchase curriculum on behalf of districts. That seemingly opens the door for a potential appropriation in the budget next year. So we'll see. But that's 207 in a nutshell.
Ask a question on 207, Chair.
Yeah,
On, so let me, a clarifying question. On 207, school districts were always allowed to ask for waivers for our administrative regulations, but if I'm reading this correctly, they can now ask for waivers to statutes itself. So that means basically that, I mean, before we could ask and we were always told, no, that's a statute, you can't do it. So now, if you basically a district is a school of innovation can waive statute and basically be their own charter school without being a charter school by saying, I don't want to follow this statute, or I don't want to follow this one, correct?
I think it all has to come to you all for approval first. They submit the waivers to you all.
Correct.
So I think that yes, if you all approved it.
Well, correct, but before, a board could never waive a statute. So now we can waive one of their statutes, is what I'm reading this. Okay, great. Okay. I think that's a major change. I mean, I don't think that the majority of people until you just said it, I did not understand that. Wow. That's great. I mean, that's good. But we're going to be hit with a ton of waivers. So it's kind of like the facilities, well, we're going to have to really develop a process for internal review of those for when they're coming versus just asking. So, yeah, you're right. That's a lot of work
Well,
on
and
that.
I
on
appreciate that
KBE.
question so much because I do think it's going to be, there are lots of issues related to this process that I think
Right.
this board's going to have to work through in terms of state-sponsored curricicula and, you know, it's really a false choice if you say, okay, if you choose one of these, we'll pay for it. If not, you're on your own. I mean, there are elements of this I think that are going to require some careful governance on our part.
But it is a great opportunity to support
yeah.
the work that is being done. You know,
Well,
Randy and I
the
were
work that
talking.
you were wanting
Well,
to-
and the whole NASB, you know, opportunity
Yeah.
here, you know, really what we're looking at there is a way to remove barriers
Yeah.
for even the schools that are highly performing. They're having to overcome barriers with workarounds. If we can, you know, provide a pathway to not make them work around, but work with us to work through, then we'll increase efficiency even of the best performing schools. This is a good opportunity.
I see it as an opportunity. I'm just seeing it
Because
as a
things are
lot of
coming
work
together.
on their,
Now,
on their
currently,
part, too. I
207
agree.
was vetoed.
Huh?
207 was vetoed.
Yeah, but we know what's going to happen there.
I will say with 207 and 298 as well, we had the department really had a lot of input on these bills in a way that we haven't in the past few sessions. So I think that goes back to what the commissioner said a little while ago about kind of the groundwork that has been laid for improving some of the relationships across the river. So hopefully we'll see that continue. 298 is another one that we had asked for and supported. So a few years ago, they moved from annual identification of CSI to following the federal kind of minimum every 3 years. In the interim, Dr. Foster and her team were still compiling the list that would have been identified for CSI and asking those schools if they would like any support. They heard back from just a handful of schools, and I think that sparked the interest of the sponsor and other legislators to go back to annual identification. And really, I think also recognizes the good work that OCIS does in working with those schools to improve them. So I don't think they would have gone back to annual identification if they didn't feel confident that the department was being helpful to those districts. And so just wanted to mention that. So go to the next slide. Try to move through some of these. So we have a number of bills that have cleared both chambers but did not get to the governor for action because they didn't get through concurrence or non-concurrence before the veto period. So we may see a few of these move to the governor for action. As a reminder, if they do get to him and he vetoes them, it is not veto proof because they'll be out of legislative days. Of these, the House resolution there, that's the gap funding for districts. So we'll likely see that one move. And then 48 is another one that we've worked on. It's a red tape reduction bill. Had a couple of problematic parts to it. I'm not sure that this one will go to the governor for action or not, but we will be having some conversations about some parts of this bill in the interim, particularly as it relates to cleaning up some of the required reporting, both from our end to the LRC and committees, but also from the districts to us, trying to clean up some of that reporting requirements. Next slide. And then I just put these on here. These are ones that passed one chamber. These, again, some of these could move here late in the session. More likely, we'll see some of these come back next session. So once they get out of a chamber, that we typically see a lot of these get refiled. And then, go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, go back. There it is. So at the bottom, 181, that one has already started to move. It's going to be heard this morning at some point. And that is one that came about from a conversation we had at the Chamber Day dinner with the sponsor. She got interested in an anti-grooming bill. Chair Mitchell and Dr. Brewer were there and were able to talk to her and kind of get that ball rolling. We provided her with some draft legislation from other states that have passed similar measures. She kind of took it in a little bit of a different direction. It's really focused on the telecommunications part of that. So I'm trying to make sure that districts have access to any text messages, whatever messaging platform is being used, so that they can monitor that between adults and students. So, and SB 6 is one I just wanted to point out because it relates to SEEK. They were trying to, with this one, really highlight help me out here, yeah. So all the other associated costs, not just the direct SEEK payments, but sort of the indirect money that they put into education and really highlighting the total amount of funding that the General Assembly is
The on behalf payments
behalf.
that you're seeing they wanted to add that into, it's a very complicated because it was like putting in the on behalf payments to reflect a per student amount, but also taking it back out for reporting. So it was a very, there's some complications with this one, but it was really just for the legislator to, in their view, to give a broader picture of the per pupil spending on education.
Yeah.
What number was that again? Sorry.
SB 6.
6.
All right, next slide. All right, so we'll kind of wrap up here. I know several of you all are waiting on resolutions to confirm your appointment to the board. They're the number. Oh, that's the next one. Sorry, go to the next one. Those confirmations will likely be done on the consent calendar late tomorrow. I think last year they did them a little earlier than normal, but usually it's the last thing they do before they turn out the lights. So they're the numbers. But if you're waiting along at home, watching along, prepare yourself for a wait. But I'll try to let Dr. Jones know once those do go through, and she can maybe send an email. So, yeah, with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Otherwise, as I said, we've already started planning for the 26th session. In addition to the assessment and accountability work that we're hoping to see filed next session, we're looking to identify maybe 4 or 5 other kind of broad topics that we've heard interest in from their side throughout the session, and try to be a little more proactive than we've been the last few sessions, and working with them over the interim to talk through what they're interested in addressing, and see if we can't kind of work on some draft legislation ahead of the session on a few big topics. So that's as well as getting the budget stuff lined up.
Preston.
Yes, I know it's not inherently education bill, but can you speak to the progress and development of the 15-year-old permit bill?
I believe that the governor signed that one, so
Yeah.
you are in good shape if you're looking to get
But
that.
I'm a little jealous they waited till.
Timing is everything, right? Yes, Julie.
Dr. Perry, is the SJR 131 the one I asked the question about via email where they could basically look at any school district they wanted?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the expansion of the efficient and effective task force from last session. So we'll see if that one goes through.
Well, all right. We're about to see the session conclude, and in order to get ready for the next one, we've got to do a little more work on our budget priorities. Dr. Perry tells us the sooner we can get this done, the better. So let's get to it. And so Matt and Karen, please come forward and help us in these deliberations.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For our new board members, I'm Matt Ross. I'm the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Finance and Operations. This is Karen Werth. She's the Budget Director for the department. So, as sick and twisted as it may seem, we need to cast our eyes towards the 26th session of the General Assembly and the formation of the 26-28 biennial budget. So today, I think we're going to go over sort of some budget basics, the baseline and the defined calculations. We'll talk about what those are. And then we're going to hear some more proposed, you will hear some more proposed ABRs from the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support, the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, and the Office of Career and Technical Education. So they will join us at the table when it's their turn and sort of talk about their proposed ABRs. So with that, I'll let Karen take over for me.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you all. It's good to be with you this morning to continue this fun conversation about legislation and budget requests. So the first thing that we want to talk about, as Matt had said, we've got some offices that are going to expand on their ABRs. But I wanted to just speak on a couple of pieces of the budget request submission that is just a mandatory part of the process. We are a baseline budget process, so what we receive in the current biennium is what we will start with when we build our budget request for the next biennium. So any of the services or programs that are funded now and that were funded in House Bill 6, those funds will continue to be in our budget moving forward. That's why we talk about the importance of our additional budget request, because those are the funds you can ask for that are over and above what we already receive. Next slide, please. We do budget those in various categories. Of course, there's personnel, which is going to be your salary and your fringe. And then there are other personnel costs, contractual agreements with professional services, those types of things. We have operating, of course, which is your supplies, your travel, just the general operating for the department, and then our grants. And those are your typical LARS lines that we refer to, or the LARS alphabet. And primarily, most of those dollars go straight to our school districts. Next slide. This is just a real simple chart of what was appropriated to KDE in House Bill 6. This is for all the fund sources we receive, so general, federal, and restricted. As you can see in the current fiscal year 2025, we've got approximately $6.6 billion budget. Please remember that our largest appropriation seek is about $3 billion, so that takes up almost half of our total appropriation. Fiscal year 26, which will start on July 1st of 2025, we've received about $6.1 billion in our KDE appropriation. Next slide, please. The next piece that I wanted to just briefly talk about today is what we refer to as defined calculations. And those are basically services provided by other state agencies that they set the cost for. So KDE doesn't have, just like other state agencies, we don't have any control over the cost. Those are determined by the agency that provides the service, and then those are approved by the Office of State Budget Director and by the Legislative Research Commission. Next slide, please. This is just a list of some of the defined calculations that we have. Of course, we have rent. We rent our space in this building. We pay for utilities, we pay workman's comp, we pay for access to EMARS and to CRIS, our HR system. So those are just some of the defined calculations that we have to build into our budget when we submit in October. Next slide, please. Just to recap where we are. As you can remember, we started in February with our 6-year capital plan. So we're moving forward with that. That will be due for submission on April 15th. Then in February, we also introduced our ABRs. We had a few offices that met with you, and we talked about CATs, and we talked about teacher recruitment and retention. We talked about high-quality instructional resources and professional development. We're going to continue those conversations today, and we're going to leave you with an exercise that will allow you to prioritize the ABRs. Included in your packet is a chart. I think there's 5 slides of chart that has all of the ABRs and a brief explanation. Also, we heard from you in February that you would like to see the statutory or regulatory reference if it's applicable to the ask. So we've added that to the columns. So that we'll get back together in June and prioritize the ABRs. Next slide, please. I'll turn it over to Dr. Foster now. She's with the Continuous Improvement, Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. She's going to talk about her 2 asks.
Well, I have lots of asks, but they only let me have 2, so. So the first one that I'm going to talk to you about today is the Kentucky Educational Recovery Fund. And so you know in my office, and I'm sorry for the new board member, my name's Kelly Foster. I'm the Associate Commissioner of the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. And so one of the things that we do out of my office is work with struggling schools. And currently, all of our work with our CSI schools and our TSI schools are being paid for with federal funds. And we know that there's lots of uncertainty moving forward about federal dollars. So that is one of the reasons I'm doing this ABR. But I have brought this ABR to you all every year since I started in this role in 2013. And every year the board has moved that forward. But unfortunately, it has not been funded at the General Assembly. They took away, I think 13 or 14 was the last year that state dollars were actually put in the budget for school improvement. So when you say that out loud, it's been since 14, since state dollars were put in the budget for school improvement. You know, we've been surviving all this time on federal funds alone. And so one of the things that I wanted to mention to you all, we're really excited about 298 that was signed, because we will go back to annual identification for low-performing schools. And what we've seen over the last few years, when we were doing every 3 years of identification, is that Rhonda Sims and her team would run the list for me of low-performing schools, or that would have been identified, and we'd reach out to them to provide support. But very few people, you know, want to take you up on support unless they have to receive it. So 298 will get us back to yearly identification starting in the fall. So we're really excited about that. But one of the things that we've been able to do the last couple of years when we did not have annual identification is we were able to help schools that, you know, weren't on the bottom 5% list, but were still struggling. And so, for example, this year I was able to do, with my field staff, 33 two-day reviews. So that's 33 schools that did not fall in that bottom 5%, but they knew that they were struggling and needed some help. So I was able to send staff with ESSER dollars to do a review on those schools, help them develop an improvement plan, and provide professional learning. I won't be able to do that moving forward because I don't have any funds to do so. So that's the main reason this ABR is so important, because we know that we have that federal list of the bottom 5%, but there are also other schools that, you know, are struggling, that need assistance, that we really would like to have some state dollars to provide professional development and support to those schools. So that's the overall gist of this. I've met with several senators and representatives during this last session and talked about the need for these dollars as well. So I'm hoping that if we can get it back over there this time, that it could possibly be funded. So that's my first one, and I'll pause and take any questions about that one. All right, my second one deals with school-based mental health professionals. So if you'll remember, right now we're funding for school resource officers, and the School Safety Resiliency Act, which is KRS 158-4416, a few years ago talked about guidance counselors needing to spend at least 60% of their time providing direct services. And after doing some research and surveying, it looks like about 53.7% of their time is really providing counseling services. They're not meeting that 60% threshold. So what we're doing with this ABR is we're trying to fund our mental health counselors at the same level as our SROs, our school resource officers. We think both are much needed in schools, but we would like to see our mental health counselors having the same amount of funding as the school resource officers.
This is so interesting because I couldn't argue with any of these, right? And so just understand we're going to get the exercise of making impossible choices after this meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you all.
Next, from the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, Commissioner Greta will join us.
Good morning. It's already on. Already on.
It was already on.
Can you hear me okay? Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good morning. I'm Greta Hilton, and I am the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. And we have 5 ABRs in front of you. The first 2 deal with early learning. So the first one aligns with the board's priorities of universal preschool. And we're asking for additional funds to support preschool opportunities for all 4-year-olds across the state. As you know, currently preschool is for those 3-year-olds that have disabilities and 4-year-olds, and then 4-year-olds who are at risk. And so this additional funding would potentially allow us to expand that opportunity to all of the Commonwealth's 4-year-olds, which would be an additional 33,156 kids. The second one is also aligns with early learning, and it's for our early childhood regional training centers. We have 5 of those, what we refer to as RTCs across the Commonwealth, and they really are, if you will, our boots on the ground. They're an extension of the department, and they provide invaluable supports, resources, professional lending libraries, and technical assistance to local school districts for preschool services. Currently, those are established and funded fully through our IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, federal funds. That's our state set-aside dollars from USAID. That then limits the amount of support that our RTCs can provide to our local school districts because IDEA dollars have to be spent to provide the excess cost of special education. So this additional budget request would allow our RTCs to expand the opportunities and the technical assistance and professional development that they provide to all preschool children, not just those with disabilities. So I will stop and see if you have any questions about those two. Okay, up next, our gifted and talented. This budget request is for a 20% additional increase for gifted and talented funds. As you know, we've talked about this over the years that I've been here. Gifted and talented is significantly underfunded in Kentucky. We have about 127 LEAs, or local education agencies, that the amount that they receive through the funding formula is less than the cost of an average teacher's salary. But yet the requirement is that they will at least have one gifted and talented coordinator per school, and so many districts are forced to offset the funds because they simply don't receive enough gifted and talented funds for that. So this increase would allow us to be able to support gifted and talented services more efficiently. Any question about gifted and talented? Okay, and then the last two are for our state schools, Kentucky School for the Blind and Kentucky School for the Deaf. And as you know, and we've talked about this for many years, KSB and KSD are underfunded. They operate on a deficit from year to year. The department supplements that, and so this would, it's the same additional budget request we bring to you every year to assist with the operating costs associated with those schools. And just as a reminder, when we say operating costs, we're not only talking about the residential program offered at those schools, but we also have the day students who are transported in and out of KSB. Then we have our short course programs where we have students who come onto campus. They work in certain specialized skills such as orientation and mobility and or American Sign Language. They go back to their local districts, and this happens for a few weeks at a time each year. And then we also have our summer programs and outreach programs where, hundreds of other students who don't physically attend KSB and KSD still reap the benefits of our state schools. Any questions about those two?
I'm really curious about the step and rank increases for the certified staff. Seriously.
Yeah.
Give us some background.
As you know, there's a statutory requirement that our staff are, their salaries are aligned with Jefferson County Public Schools. And we align that with the step and rank increases as well. So you want to talk more about that? Or?
Yeah. If we don't ask for the step and rank, we don't get it. So
I see.
So that's why we ask for it.
But should not that be operating cost and not an ABR? I
Yes, I completely. And we've had that conversation with, this should be a defined calculation or something, this should be a part of what we need, not what we're asking for, not extra. But it still has to be displayed as an APR.
Okay. So, yes.
So if we don't approve that, we won't be in line with the school system, but they're getting.
No, we will
different
still have to follow that. We just won't have the funds for it. We'll have to use it from other KDE operating funds to support it.
Yes, Holly.
Can I go back to universal preschool? I mean, I'm very supportive of that, but when you said 33,000 kids, like, are there facilities to house those programs?
That's a good question. I will ask the preschool team, if you don't mind, to come and assist with some of these questions.
So good morning. My name is Thomas Williams. That's a great question. So there has been some concern around capacity around universal preschool. So to answer your question, yes and no. Some districts say that they're ready. Some districts have expressed that capacity concern.
And just number of preschool teachers. I know I know in our own program at Murray State, the IECE program is pretty small. I just wonder, would we have the capacity to fill those slots with preschool teachers, I wonder?
So yeah, I agree with you as well. So that has also been a concern around capacity of certified IECE teachers. That would be a concern. But other states have done this, and it looks different in each state. So we could possibly one scenario could be partnering with childcare. That could be a possibility. A model that other states have used.
Yes.
Just a brief comment. Obviously, this is certainly focused on educational opportunities for these young people, but I'd also be remiss if I didn't point out, as part of the discussion, there's a significant workforce impact on parents who don't have available childcare that prevents them from being in the workforce. So as part of the conversation going forward, perhaps the workforce angle could be added, because childcare is probably one of the top barriers to people being able to go to work.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Randy?
On the preschool, currently, preschool's just, if I recall, a half day. So are we calling for all services for 4-year-olds to continue to be the half day or full day? Because it goes back to Secretary Link's question, is people are getting half day services right now, but that keeps them out of the workforce too. This was a question we just had in Northern Kentucky in our early childhood groups that we have advocating for this session. So help me out there. What is the current thing? Is it half day? And are we asking for just half day? Or are we asking for full day? Or
So that's a great question. So right now that has not been defined, but currently, yes, it is half day. But what we're seeking is just universal preschool for all 4-year-olds. So in regards to the model, that has not yet been defined in regards to how that would look currently in Kentucky.
And this is a question, I guess, a little bit more for Greta. Currently, 4-year-olds that qualify for preschool is based on either special needs or economic needs.
Right.
For 4-year-olds that have, and this has always been the thing, speech has been, a question. So I'm just asking for clarification for my own thing, because I was asking, really don't have the answer for this. That a child that is 4 years old and they're having speech difficulties, but they aren't defined really under totally special ed because they're meeting everything except for speech, and they're not economically, do they qualify or not qualify? Because I think the things from school to school, what I hear from parents, I might qualify if I go down this school, and I don't qualify if I'm in that neighboring school. So that 536, does that fall into play for preschool and things like that too? Or
That is a great question. So if a 4-year-old has speech needs and they're identified for speech language services, then technically they fall under the IDEA as a child with a disability and would be eligible.
But some schools, because there might be a capacity, is that why they're turning them away or saying that they don't really qualify? I mean, help me out here.
I don't know. I'm going to plug my ears.
Okay. I understand. Yeah, I was back there to push.
Yeah, so technically, if a 4-year-old has a speech IEP, or if there's reason to suspect that the child has a disability and should have an IEP, then they are eligible for services. And in real life, we do get into capacity issues at times, and so the way in which they provide those services may look a little different. But the student's still entitled to the service.
Even if they don't, because the speech itself qualifies under the special needs category.
Yes, it's still an IEP.
I guess it comes down to a school saying they did an assessment and they really didn't qualify, but someone else is saying they do qualify, outside private saying they do qualify. I guess that's where that conflict
Now there may be some variances there, but then there's also private school students who are parentally placed in certain spaces that, and this would be school age children typically that would still qualify for services even though they're private schools. So it gets really convoluted when we start to get into the services plan.
I would just say back to our other gentleman, I mean, based on Secretary Links, we should be asking, if we're asking for this, we should be providing full-day services then and not part-time or otherwise. We're just in the same thing we have for kindergarten for so many years.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know that you'd get a whole lot of argument from this table. I'm going to
Well, I
call
understand
Holly and
the
then
legislature
Justin.
would, but
Just one more quick question. When we say universal preschool, is it mandatory or it's optional for 4-year-olds?
So for universal preschool or the current criteria for 4-year-olds?
Pardon me?
Do you mind repeating your question?
Oh, yes. So when we say it's provided services to all 4-year-old children, is it then
Compulsory.
optional?
Compulsory.
Right.
Compulsory.
Yeah, it's still compulsory. Yeah, it's still to be optional, but instead of the student now having to have a disability or income eligible, they could just
Anyone is
yes,
eligible?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm still confused. Is it compulsory or optional?
Would be
Optional.
Be optional.
Justin.
I've come just more of kind of an operational question, Matt. There's no dollar amounts with any of these.
I
Is
think
that
we've costed them out into
is
the.
that? I didn't see.
Gotta go
Scroll all the way down, yeah.
not in that.
But even within the chart, I didn't. So maybe I'm just not looking. I didn't look at it. Okay. I'm sorry.
got it?
Here we go. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So this chart will come to us after this meeting as a worksheet, and so we will be asked to prioritize these ARBs. So it's important to understand what we're choosing from, because, I mean, there are a lot of things that we want to say yes to, and yes, in what order. So,
And Chair Robinson, I know we still have OCTE to present, but while we're
Yes.
talking about the chart, Matt, I don't know, or Karen, I don't know how burdensome this request is, but would it be possible for us to either get an additional couple of columns to show what has been funded on the items that have appeared multiple years, which really is most of these? Or could we just get last year's so I can see what the differences are in the biennial requests on items that are in fact the same as the
Okay.
previous biennium?
Okay, yeah.
Is that, is the second way easier? Just send us, yeah, okay.
I can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
so for that to come with our live
Yeah, so
priority exercise would be
That would be
really
helpful
good.
for me to kind of
me
see what
too.
the requests have been in the past. And maybe even the last year's, what we prioritized last year.
Okay. Yeah, we can
Thank
do that.
you. I'm just trying to think about information as it's so hard to choose between all these important
I know. I know.
requests, so.
Impossible
Yeah,
task.
especially for those of us who haven't been through this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got a lot to try
Yeah.
to catch up on
Yeah.
the history
Yeah.
of how the board operates in this scenario.
Yeah.
So, and I will say, if you all find that you have questions as you go on your separate ways and look at this, you can reach back out to Karen and I. We can
Yeah.
contact you with the right office if you need more information.
Thank you. That's very generous. Thank you. So So next we want to see Beth and the talk about the OTCs. Oh, CTEs.
Get that right. So many letters.
Okay.
There's too many OECs,
Yeah.
OSIs.
Thank you, and I do not envy you your job of prioritizing these. We too have 5 ABRs for your consideration. The first one stems from what we talked about yesterday, as far as the area technology centers. You know, when we got the fiscal year 22 funding, the area technology centers were not included in that. And so then in the 24 session, we had a new funding formula, and it was to bring the ATCs into the CTE supplemental formula so that we would have the equity across the system. They were not withstood in the budget language, and so we talked about then the disparities in the difference, you know, in the full-time equivalent enrollments. So what we're asking for, and we've gone back and recalculated and said, okay, what would this cost if we were to put the incentives in there for the ATCs and the weighted FTEs so that we could, in essence, bring them on? And it would be about $14.7 million to do that. And so what we're asking for in the ABR is for fiscal year 27 and 28, $14,789,352 for both years. And I know that is a large ask, and of course we are hopeful that the General Assembly will include that in the budget language, but we just feel like we need to bring it forward in an ABR because it is such inequality right now as far as the funding. Okay, any questions about that one? Okay. So the next two, I'll put those together. We've got the step and rank and the salary schedule. And this is the same thing that Greta was talking about with KSD and KSB. And we talked about this yesterday, the fact that it's really difficult to find our teachers. And again, if we don't ask for it, we probably won't get it. We do know that the step and rank is really a moving target because we don't know each year how many teachers we'll be hiring and what ranks they may have, how many years of service. So we've estimated $150,000 for fiscal year 27 and $175,000 for fiscal year 28. And then on the salary schedule, we are anticipating increasing that the 3%. And so the new hires then that we would have would be coming in for the first year only because they would get picked up in the second year as far as our annual allotment. So we're asking for $225,000 for fiscal year 27. Okay, any questions there?
Are ATC salaries also tied to JCPS?
No, ma'am.
That's only KSB and KSD?
Yes. Okay, then we also have an ask for our CTSOs. I don't know if you remember, Dr. Brewer back in the last meeting talked about the need for educators rising and needing funding. And so it really made us think, because we've realized this for a few years, but I don't know that we've ever really brought this forward. But our CTSOs do such a great job as far as developing the leadership skills in those students. And students that participate in those, they have higher wages, you know, that their outcomes are much better. And so what we're asking for, it's $175,000 for fiscal year 27 and again for fiscal year 28. And that would be $15,000 for each of the 7 CTSOs that are in OCTE. And this would provide them funds so that they could, for their conferences, they're not going to be relying on just membership dues and trying to factor in, being able to provide the necessary resources for those conferences, that they would have a budget that they could actually work with. Okay, the final one. Kentucky was selected as a national pilot for a statewide Department of Army instruction. And so we're very proud of this, to be the only state in the union. And this was approved last year from the budgetary standpoint, and it's a 3-year pilot, but we got funds for 2 years. And so what we're asking for is to be able to continue out the 3rd year of that pilot. That would be $493,800, and then to continue it. And it has been very successful. Again, this has included additional staff that can work with the ROTC programs across the state, ensuring that they have access to all of their ordering, making sure that the programs, that there's consistency there as far as the instruction and the quality.
I have a question, ma'am. What district is this pilot program located in?
And I have Colonel McDonald, is he right here? He's the Colonel, he's the one that can speak to it better.
It's on. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
So our total junior RTCs in the state are 95. We have 66 Army, 24 Navy, 24 Air Force, and 5 U.S. Marine Corps. Our office mandate is to directly support the Army programs. We are the primary advocate for junior RTC at the state level for the other programs, for the other services. So it's a little nuanced. So across the state, that's the number we have. And it would vary between districts. Like JCPS has the largest number of programs, whether they be Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps. The goal is to, as much as we'd like to have a junior RTC for everybody at every school, it's not something that we could do. So the goal is to at least have access for every student that wants to participate in a junior RTC to have that access in the state. Hopefully that answers your question.
So neighboring counties could go to the JROTC program in
Yes.
another district?
Yes, and middle school.
And middle
Eighth grade middle schoolers can attend now, yes. Mhm.
And this program is Army?
It's 4 services. So our mandate is to directly support the Army side of the program, the
pilots.
66, right. But since we're state employees, we're also primarily advocating for junior RTC for all the services, so we can provide that where we need it. It's like I said, it's very nuanced. We have direct channels into the Army because we're an Army program. That's very much a coordinating role with the other services.
I just have a passion for the JRTC program. I was able to help implement one at the school that I was principal at in Fayette County.
Yeah, very good.
And
Thank
I've
you.
seen the difference that it had made, especially the sergeant major and as well as the colonel that served in that program. So,
Yeah, very good. Thank you for your support. And Sergeant Major is actually working in our office now.
okay.
Yeah, Command Sergeant
really?
Major Hooper. Mhm.
Okay, I need to get your contact information.
I'll get it to you.
Visit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm just curious, when you say that this is proving to be a beneficial program, what are you thinking? What are examples of the benefits?
Okay, we do. So it kind of really comes down to our primary responsibilities. The first one being oversight. We have a tremendous amount of compliance oversight that the Army gives us through their regulatory mandates that ties back to federal statute and Title 10. So that's where we spend most of our time. And that's primarily done through our junior RTC program of accreditation, where every 3 years, on the Army side, every 3 years we are required to go out and provide them that accreditation to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, curriculum, getting support they need, these kinds of things. The other thing that we see statistically is higher graduation rates with junior RTC cadets, among other students. A propensity to seek out leadership responsibilities in the workplace. And we work really hard to kind of dispel the myth that we're a recruiting mechanism. We're not. Our primary mission in the schools across the Commonwealth are to motivate better citizens, and it's that simple. One of the secondary advantages that we see is that leadership aspect that you get with the students in the hallways, participating in clubs, sports, you name it. And then the disciplined kind of presence that sometimes our cadets have inside the hallways. That other students can see it, and you get this peer-to-peer kind of leadership aspect that's maybe the more unique to junior RTC than some other pathways. Hopefully that answered your question.
Madam Chair, I would like to second all that, the citizenship, the connections. We had several students who probably would have dropped out if it had not been for JROTC. And that personnel in the program that kept up with them, they knew what they were doing. I think it's all that that basic foundation that we need to have kids prepared for to learn and to study, as well as to go on and do productive jobs outside in the workforce.
Right, and we do, the Army Junior RTC cadets and the Air Force Junior RTC cadets can take the NOCD exam for credentialing and leadership and employability, which further gets after kind of dispelling that myth that we're a recruiting mechanism. But it also highlights the fact that we're trying to inspire Kentucky students to be better citizens in the Commonwealth.
And this program, the Department of Army Instruction, is available, but there are criterias for districts to have it. And so usually it's pretty cost prohibitive. And so that's why we were selected as a state to have it at the state level, so that others, hopefully, if successful, and so far we have been, then other states would be able to adopt this and have it statewide as well.
I remember when I was superintendent in Jessamine, we were on a list for a
Right.
long time to try to acquire a program. But
Right, and I'm not sure if the board's aware of this, but what you're referring to is an order of merit list, is what we call
Okay.
it at U.S. Army Cadet Command. So it's a list of a lot of schools nationally. We have 1,734 programs across the country. We've got those 66 Army programs here in Kentucky. That list is the cost-shared list, meaning for those programs,
Yes.
right, the state pays 50%, the federal government pays 50%. And there's no indications that's going to change based on some of the conversations that you've had here. The other option, which is a lot of principals and superintendents are seeking out now, is what's called the National Defense Cadet Corps option. That's different. There is no order of merit list for that. The issue is for the districts and the schools is it's cost prohibitive because it's not cost shared. So we're in conversation right now with six schools that are looking to develop NDCCs across the state and explaining to them the difference. So they've got to find the funding for the program if it's an NDCC because it's not cost shared. There has been some change in federal law, though, that allows that to be a less expensive venture than it has in the past. So in the past, you had to be a retired veteran. So we've got 165 veterans across the state that teach junior RTC and that's all services. Now, with the change in the statute, you can be a retired veteran, staff sergeant or higher, of 10 years with an associate's degree. So when I'm having these conversations with schools or superintendents, they're like, well, how much does it cost me? Well, that person leaves service and enters this new pay scale we have. It's going to cost you about $67,000 a school year for that one instructor, and we require one at a minimum, and then we work towards two. So having that conversation about how affordable that is, and then of course it goes up from there based on the pay scale, right? So there are options to work around the OML, and then if over time you wanted to transition that NDCC to what we call a full junior ROTC program, then you get on the order of merit list and you work to get a full program. So hopefully that all made sense.
Thank you. Let's come back to the next steps in this process. Karen, you are going to, after this meeting, we'll be presented with the exercise, right?
That's correct, yes. What I'll do is I'll add the last biennium ask and send that out to Dr. Jones, and she can share that with you all so you can have that comparison, what was prioritized last time. One thing that I did want to mention is there is the ability to combine some of these.
Yes.
Excuse me. I remember last biennium, we combined the OELE asks into, I think it was teacher supports. Just kind of looking at the list, I kind of envisioned CTSOs, Ed Rising, and Go Teach could possibly be a combined ask. It makes it a little bit easier in the prioritization process to not have all of these as individuals. And we could title it student supports or something of that like that. Also, we could do something maybe a high quality for Mickey's resources and professional learning. maybe we could group those together somehow. There are some that have to just be specific. You know, you've got Read to Succeed, you've got numeracy counts, you've got universal pre-K, you've got KETS, you've got ER funding. But the ones that we can kind of put together that might be an option to make this a shorter list. And I'm happy to try to do that for you if that's something you all would like to explore.
Yes, please.
Karen, if it would be possible, I think it would be good to, like, if we could highlight, like, put them together and highlight them as one color.
Mhm.
I think would be something that would be very beneficial, that these three could be combined into one. I think that would be helpful
Yes.
to everyone, just as a visual.
This is a really interesting exercise. It's not easy, but it's well worth it. And the additional background information, particularly for board members who have not been through this before.
Yes.
And I promise you, they really mean it when they say they are here to help. So
Absolutely.
you'll be getting contact information if you need to reach out to Matt or Karen as we are trying to complete this. But it's really, this is important to kind of check our own standing as it relates to these. Get Lou?
And you may have mentioned this in the introduction to this session. I apologize if I missed it, but as I recall, we will be asked to prioritize this. This is how we've decided to grapple with this, but all of the ABRs stay in play.
That's correct.
So we don't just, even though it doesn't make it to our top priority, it doesn't mean that anything on the list doesn't get presented
That's
for
correct.
consideration in the budget. So I don't know, maybe I'm just looking for a way to make myself feel better about these hard choices, but keep in mind that nothing goes away. These are decisions that agency leadership have made in terms of, you know, if we could have it all, here's what we would want.
And I also,
need.
I'm sorry, I apologize for
please.
interrupting. I also wanted to mention that we did include an ABR for the work of the Cool Council for the upcoming assessment and accountability.
So that placeholder.
Right. We don't have a dollar amount yet. We're still working with that team. But you don't want to prioritize these based on the number. You want to prioritize these based on the work.
Yes.
So we felt like that was very important to go ahead and add that on there so that you could have it during this exercise.
It might be helpful in the email to ping some of those guiding principles, prioritized based on the work. And
Yes, absolutely. And Dr. Jones, I'll work with her, and she's going to create a survey and send it to you all, and just you'll be able to go in and plug in your numbers. And then in June, we'll invite just good conversation and discussion around why this one is in the top 5 and this one isn't. But like Chair Robinson said, they will all go forward. Everyone will go forward. So,
Further questions, comments? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate your attention to
Commissioner,
it.
for
Are we not gonna
giving
do-
such thoughtful, bringing forth these
sorry,
thoughtful recommendations. Oh,
There's
Lee,
some-
I'm sorry.
There's some other ones on here too. Like,
I think we did them.
we did
We've
done-
I think we've
Everybody
covered
up to this
everything
point.
except Seek.
Okay.
Seek base and Seek transportation, we haven't covered those. As far as a presentation, we felt like that we wanted the other offices
Yeah.
to have the opportunity to come to the table.
Yeah, we
Seek-
started with OET
We did.
with David Couch, and then
And we've had Meredith,
yes,
Greta, Kelly,
Mickey. Yeah.
Mickey, yeah. So I think we've covered everybody.
And I had a request from Meredith to know from their things, what's the different roles from EPSB and the Office of Licensure, so that when we know that we're doing these AR, it's for this office and not that office, or is it for both offices? I still am confused and would like to know that.
Yeah, it's all one office.
They don't have a budget.
No, she's just saying it's all one office.
It's all us.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but we're not under control, of my understanding from Meredith, under anything from EPSB, this board, but we're asking for their budget, but we have no.
We fund
Okay.
Independent.
So I'm even more confused why we don't have control. If we have to ask for the budget, then why don't we have
Yeah, I think we're
any
going to do a work
questioning?
session. I think we're
Yeah,
going to do a work
we're-
session on it.
Yeah,
we need to,
we're working
so
on
I'm
a work
just saying.
session because they are an independent agency.
I know, and that's why, but we do have part of them underneath us.
We
if I
have
heard that
all of them
correctly.
underneath us.
Well, no, we don't.
The
We
board-
can't have it.
The board stands separately. The Office of
Correct.
Educator Leadership and Effectiveness is under the Department of Education, under the direction of the commissioner.
Right,
So,
but E EPSB is not.
yep, they stand alone as an independent governance board for licensure.
Okay, but,
But we
I
staff
guess that's
them.
where we need more
Yeah.
understanding, because I don't understand how we are overseeing them, but we don't, and we're gonna be requesting a budget for them, but we have no understanding of what we're even requesting in a budget for something that we don't oversee or have any information on. That's why I need a clarification for myself, because I just don't understand that.
Coming right up. I think we'll get to that sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, we need to if we're gonna be voting on things.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean,
Makes sense.
it makes sense on my prioritization of funds for early childhood versus educational professional standards board. I mean, it just plays into my mind
Yeah.
of how I'm gonna vote on something.
So for me, the way that I reconcile it, Dr. Poe, is that these are requests from the Office of Educational Leadership and Effectiveness.
Yeah.
So just like they are from OCTE, OTL, OFO. So one of Dr. Fletcher's associate commissioners and offices have presented these for consideration to the State Board of Education for additional budget requests. So I don't think of it as EPSB asking for the funds, but the office here inside the agency. So when those were consolidated, that office now exists as part of the Department of Education. So it's one of the sister offices with OCTE, OFO.
Right, and at one time, they were under
Totally
the
separate, yeah.
post-secondary, and
And
they
then
were
they were-
requesting that budget. Now we're requesting that budget, and when we request the budget and we only get so much money, that's a consideration for us to look at. Because unfortunately, and not going into certain circumstances, but they expend funds, and if they exceed their particular budget, then we're responsible for that under here. But their board then directs what they do or don't do in relationship to our school systems out there. So that's the reason why, to me, they have people that work there and they're charging back to district for some cases that we may say that they should or shouldn't do. And I don't want to get into all those specifics. But I mean, I sat in front of the legislature the other year talking about this stuff. So I need to have a clear understanding of what I'm going to vote on for budgetary purposes of what is underneath EPSB and what's underneath us, what budget goes to this side of the house and what budget goes to that side of the house. Because there is some money that goes there that they control that we're asking for, correct or not correct?
Not to EPSB.
So
So you're saying there's no dollar amount for anything that EPSB does
for the EPSB board.
under,
For the board.
well, I know that, but we're requesting they're not, the EPSB board is not going to the legislature and asking for
That's
an
correct.
ARP. We are for them, correct?
We are for the work of the Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness, which is
I
under
know, we're
KBE.
dancing around words here, but
But and
there
let
are
us-
dollar amounts that we're
yeah.
we're requesting.
For our
and,
office.
and I hear you. I think that this is always
Well, that's why we have to
actually
have a
this is one
workshop.
of those topics that you need a refresher from time to time.
Well, I need a whole course. on
Yeah,
it.
I've
Not a
asked the
refresher, to be honest.
commissioner to organize a virtual briefing for us on this. We are hoping to have a much more dynamic relationship with EPSB. And the Office of Education Leadership and Effectiveness is hoping to have a much more dynamic set of activities to promote the recruitment and retention efforts that we've discussed, and to promote a more productive relationship between the school districts and the universities regarding certainly the clinical experience, but also the professional development dynamics between them and the interest in promoting more aggressive efforts toward improving student achievement in the
Okay,
community.
I love all that, but
And-
there is a huge valley. It's kind of like the Grand Canyon. to me.
Exactly. And right now, I think we are at the moment of opportunity.
Okay.
And so we've got to clarify our roles, and we've got to define our ambitions, beginning with step one and the budget. So, Dr. Fletcher, I mean, a lot has happened in that office in recent months that we're just learning about. I mean, a communications effort and an effort to work with. It's almost like you've got leadership and effectiveness, and you've got EPSB, which is a separate board, but we take their budget to the
Along those same lines, I serve as executive secretary to the EPSB, so even my roles are a little bit blurred on how they look when it comes to EPSB versus this board versus KDE. So I'll talk with Dr. Brewer on putting together a virtual learning session on what exactly those roles are, and that way we can get those questions answered.
And I'm telling you, there is a lot of we have an opportunity to find the opportunities for leverage and cooperation, rather than have EPSB kind of there and we wish them well, but we're not leveraging at all. So that's my great hope.
I can tell you I get 3 calls at least a month about things, and I explain to them that we have no input into EPSB standards, and people cannot understand why, and I can't explain to them. So yes, it needs to be done.
I get it. Justin, did you have?
No, ma'am. No, I'm good.
If we're ready, we can move to the next item. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much.
This is a part of the agenda where we get to smile and acknowledge true, almost heroic efforts of our colleagues, and have the great partnership and collaboration with the Milken organization on the agenda. So thank you so much for being here, Commissioner.
Yeah, let's start with Ms. Green, if you wouldn't mind, to do some introductions for us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So good morning. My name is Allie Green. I am the program consultant for the Division of Educator Recruitment and Development. I started this role in mid-November, and my first real KDE event was attending the Milken notification ceremony at Long Branch Elementary. So, wow, that was a really cool way to start this job. I love to be able to help celebrate the amazing work of our Kentucky educators. So Kentucky joined the Milken Educator Awards program in 1993, and since then there have been 63 recipients in Kentucky. Jenna Stewart here is the newest recipient. She received the $25,000 honor from the Milken Family Foundation with a surprise assembly at her school in December. We are also joined today by the Boone County Superintendent, Dr. Hauswald, and Jenna's family is here as well. So Commissioner Fletcher is going to share some words and present Jenna with the obelisk, and then Jenna would also like to speak to the board.
So first of all, congratulations, Ms. Stewart, so much. Fifth grade teacher in Boone County at, I think, Long Branch. We were there back in December, and for joining this national network. It's a great opportunity. Yes, there's some financial benefit too, but it's also a great opportunity. And I will say that while Ms. Stewart was extremely happy, there were no one in the building more happy than, or happier than her students. To see their reaction was priceless. So when you see the reactions of students and how they interact with each other, interact with the teacher, you know the value that you put into each student each and every day. So thank you for that. But also, too, some more information. The Milken Educator Award does recognize outstanding K-12 educators for their quality of teaching, their professional leadership, their engagement with families and the community, and their potential for even greater contributions to their students schools, and communities in their future. In an exciting school assembly in December, Jenna was surprised in front of her students and colleagues with $25,000 unrestricted cash prize and the opportunity to attend an all-expense-paid national network forum. So congratulations. And before I go a little bit more on the Milken Award, I will have to say there was a young lady that called me over to the side while I was there. This is a side note. And she said, "Are you the commissioner?" "Yes." I said, "Our teachers told us about you." I said, "Really? What did they have to say?" And she said, "Well, they say you're in charge of all schools. Is that correct?" I said, "Well, technically, yes." She said, "Can you give us more recess?" So this young lady planned that. She said, "This was
that's
my
awesome.
opportunity." So I said, "Yes, ma'am, I can." So my announcement when I first started, I said, "I'm going to give every student in this building extra 15 minutes due to my new friend." And she stood up and she was proud. I mean, she may run that building at this point. So I'm just saying. But so again, even though I got to be a part of a $25,000 presentation to a teacher, is well deserved a check, but I also got the opportunity to see students, and most importantly, I saw the impact that you were making on these students. Again, unless you see student reaction, it's hard to imagine exactly the impact that you make on students, and that's very obvious. So, some more information here. The unique element of the Milken Award program is that of surprise. I didn't even get to know who it was. I just know where I was going until they gave me the envelope. I did not know who it was, and then I got to read the information after. I was like, "Oh wow, this is great." So you were surprised. I was only surprised maybe 2 minutes earlier. So again, we want to take a few minutes just to recognize Jenna and the work that she does, and this time in front of her family. So thankful to have her family here, and also the outstanding work that you do on behalf of kids. So let's give her another round of applause. So now we get the opportunity to have some pictures with a rock star. So at this time, before we take pictures, Ms. Stewart, would you like to have some remarks, please?
Yes, please. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jenna Stewart. Like Fletcher said, that day in December was, I just thought we were going to a school assembly, and so when my name was called, I didn't really know what was going on, what was happening, or what I had just won. It was the craziest day that I've had as an educator. But I am deeply honored and humbled to be here today for this incredible recognition. Before I say too much, I'd just like to mention that speaking in front of a room full of adults is definitely out of my comfort zone. So please bear with me. I would like to thank the Board of Education and the Milken Family Foundation for this prestigious recognition. The special day back in December when I surprisingly received the award will be a day that I cherish forever. It was such an honorable day, and it really gave me an additional spark as an educator. Having spent lots of time since reflecting on why me, I think it's important to note that I wouldn't be the educator or person I am today without the support of so many others around me. From my family, my friends, my colleagues, my students, and all the wonderful educators I've crossed paths with along the way, I'd just like to say thank you. Teaching is not just a job for me, it's a passion. I'm often reminded that the work that we do has the power to shape lives and futures. Education is a gift that gives, and I believe that every child deserves the opportunity to learn, grow, and reach their highest potential. From a young age, I've always had a passion for helping others, and teaching allows me to do that in so many unique ways every single day. The love for helping others stems from my parents, but specifically my mother, who has always been an epitome of putting others before herself. She has a remarkable way with words, and her influence has helped me shape my belief that education is more than just teaching. It's about making connections and shaping hearts and minds of our future. In fact, my mother wrote a poem that perfectly captures my feelings about what it means to be an educator, and I'm going to read that. Have you ever stopped to ponder how the world starts with a teacher? The doctor, the lawyer, the scientist, the carpenter, the preacher. Each begins as a blank slate, a moldable piece of clay, who is shaped into what they will become slowly along the way. With so many artisans in collaboration to form the masterpiece they will be, how fortunate am I that one of those is me? I get to mold the future, shape tiny little minds, assuring each one knows they're special and no one's left behind. Teaching not only the fundamentals, but making learning fun, reinforcing that the sky's the limit when you get your lessons done. Connecting with empathy and compassion for each child is unique, and making them feel they're important is the outcome that I seek. Hoping each will master their standards, and when they leave my class, I pray they'll take with them a love of learning each and every day. But beyond the book, I hope they know, at year's end when we must part, that I will always be here if they need me, and they'll forever be in my heart. This poem sums up my mission as an educator, helping students realize their potential and inspiring them to be the best version of themselves. I'm grateful to be part of a profession that allows me to make a positive impact on our future. Thank you again for this wonderful recognition and inviting me here today. I am committed to continuing an important work with both heart and purpose.
Dr. Oswald, before we come forward to take pictures, would you like to say a couple words?
No, we are just. I said no, and then I started speaking. So, thank you to the board, Commissioner Fletcher, who is. We know he puts in 14-hour days because when school's in session, he's interacting, engaging with students and teachers and staff. He's everywhere, and so we're grateful to him. He came for I forget how much time was on his agenda, but of course he stayed much longer. Had the opportunity to grant the extra recess, which seemed to be the highlight of the day. I've never heard from this. So, but what I will say with this, we visited Miss Stewart, and she was in a cottage. If you don't been to Long Branch, it's one of our growing areas where the houses are kind of popping up like mushrooms. And we built a school a few years ago for 600, Randy, and it's at 1,000. Matter of fact, we can't even fit all the students in the gym. I think Milken was like, well, we have all the students. We're like, well, the fire marshal says we can have half. So, but nonetheless, we appreciate Dr. Fletcher's engagement with all the schools, with our schools. And what I love the most is we visited Miss Stewart while she was teaching after the award. And of course, we celebrated longer than she did. She went right back to teaching. And I think it was a math lesson, right? And so, of course, that's right. Dr. Fletcher and I, we love that. So we stayed much longer than we probably needed to. And again, just the engagement with the schools, we really appreciate it. And we're so proud of Miss Stewart. She's an incredible teacher. And of course, when she received the award immediately, as any servant leader does, and just the selflessness she shows on a daily basis, immediately said this could be any teacher in the building, and started sort of deflecting the attention. It speaks highly of her and the relationship she has with all the staff members there. She does incredible work. I'll tell a story on her. Of course, she called her. She called her husband and said, there's an assembly today. We have to dress up, right? You told the story. So hopefully I'm telling this accurately. I might paraphrase a little bit. But he said, what's going on? She goes, I don't know. And she says, well, maybe you're getting a raise and getting more money. And she said, well, I am a public educator. And then called him right afterwards and said, hey, I just got a $25,000 award. So maybe he had to crow a little bit, but we're real proud of her for this. And I know that she's actually more excited about the leadership opportunities from the Milken Award and the professional development that comes over the money, because again, I see Jenna growing in her teaching and just continuously investing in herself and her learning and making a difference in the classroom. So again, thank you to the entire board. Thank you, Dr. Fletcher, and mostly importantly, you really should introduce. You read your mom's poem. I told a story. So before we do a photo, you really should introduce your family who's here. And because they are, she tells us that standing behind her is her family, and we're real proud of you, Jenna. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes, I have my mom, Kim, my dad, Jim, and my husband, Tyler.
That's great.
Behind the TV. I'll be on that.
Sorry.
Photo ball. Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it. Okay.
That's great.
And now we have yet another award to present.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep, this is our presentation of the 2025 Robinson Award for Diversity and Equity in Public Education. And today I do join Chair Robinson in presenting the 2025 Robinson Award for Diversity and Equity in Public Education. Dr. Samuel Robinson was a former member of the Kentucky Board of Education from 1991 to 2004, who made diversity and equity in public education his life's work. A noted educator and civil rights leader, Robinson began his career in Kentucky in Louisville in 1960. His diverse background in public education included everything from principal at Shawnee High School to president of the Lincoln Foundation.
Right.
Robinson also was a well-known community figure as Louisville navigated the civil rights era. Each year, the Kentucky Board of Education grants this award to a Kentuckian or a Kentucky organization demonstrating extraordinary efforts and contributions in the area of educational diversity and equity. This year, the board approved 2 recipients of the award for diversity and equity in public education. The first recipient is Michael Griffin, principal of Browning Springs Middle School, Hopkins County Schools, who received 2 nominations. According to his nomination, every decision he makes proves his steadfast commitment to closing achievement gaps, fostering a positive school culture, and empowering students and families. Through his leadership, Browning Springs Middle School is an amazing community that is advancing equity and reducing barriers in learning. Under Mr. Griffin's leadership, Browning Springs Middle School has achieved remarkable growth. He spearheaded initiatives that elevated the school's overall performance rating from orange to yellow, eliminating its targeted support and improvement designation for students with disabilities and African American students. Across academic areas, including reading, math, science, social studies, and writing, student performance has significantly improved. Notably, the school leaped 2 classifications in the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey, reflecting a safer, more inclusive environment for all. The number of in-school and out-of-school suspensions has decreased dramatically, and chronic absenteeism has seen a significant decline. These improvements stem from his commitment to fostering a positive, supportive atmosphere where every student feels valued. The nominator continues with, Mr. Griffin has also implemented programs tailored to meet the needs of diverse learners and their families. He introduced multicultural events, parent workshops, and family engagement nights, ensuring that families feel welcomed and informed. All school correspondence is translated into the languages spoken by students and their families, removing communication barriers. And also, at the heart of Mr. Griffin's leadership is his unwavering belief in the potential of every student he makes. Makes it his mission to ensure every child feels respected and celebrated, recognizing their achievements in academics, athletics, attendance, behavior, and more. His efforts to uplift students and remove barriers to success reflect his deep commitment to equity and his dedication to fostering a community of belonging. Congratulations, Principal Griffin, and we invite you to come forward to receive your award and pose for a picture.
No, he's not here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, that's our first award recipient. Congratulations again to Principal Griffin. Then we also have another award recipient. The second recipient of the Robinson Award for Diversity and Equity in Public Education is Dr. Marty Polio, Superintendent of Jefferson County Schools. According to his nominator, who served on the State Board of Education with Samuel Robinson, more than 70% of JCPS students qualify for free and reduced lunch program, and more than 60% are students of color. Dr. Polio often says, I believe the students who have the fewest resources at home are those who should receive the most resources at school. He has thus made supporting those students his primary focus during his 7 years as superintendent. His nominator continues, some examples of what Dr. Polio and his board have accomplished together are, the district became one of the first in the nation to institute a racial equity policy. The district changed the funding formula to ensure that schools with the highest percentage of students in poverty have additional funding, staff, and support. The district opened 2 schools, W.E.B. Du Bois Academy for boys and Grace James Academy, which I had the privilege of being a part of for one day, which was truly amazing. The leadership that's going on in that school for those young ladies, it was a blessed opportunity for me personally. And it has an Afrocentric curriculum for families who want their students to be educated in a setting that highlights and honors their experience and culture. The district added summer programming for 10,000 students and 2 after-school learning centers for students struggling to perform at grade level, most of them from economically disadvantaged homes. The district targeted capital improvements with more than 20 new playgrounds at elementary schools in the district's choice zone, significantly eliminating the disparity with schools whose PTAs could afford new equipment. Dr. Polio his nominator continues. His focus on equity has helped the district make substantial gains in narrowing gaps in achievement and graduation rates. For example, the graduation rate for the district's black students is at an all-time high of 88.9%, and the gap between black and white students has been virtually eliminated. In 2024, it was 0.5%. Meanwhile, the post-secondary readiness rates have continued to rise, while the gap between black and white students has narrowed each of the last several years. As a result of Dr. Polio's leadership, black and other students of color now have a greater chance of seeing administrators and teachers who look like them. Congratulations to my friend, Superintendent Polio. We invite you to come forward to receive your award. And for a picture.
Better than yesterday.
Speech.
You employed me. Thank you so much. I feel honored by receiving this award. First of all, I want to thank my nominator, David Tackow, who I've had the honor to work with in many different ways, committees, things like that, and my team, who were some of my members of my team who I believe were a part of this nomination that I didn't know until I received the award. It really means a lot to me. The work that we've done in Jefferson County Public Schools is beginning to bear the fruits of our hard labor. And it is a long, long pathway when you are working to really eliminate achievement gaps and overcome what I consider to be inequities built within our schools and outside of our schools for decades and even centuries. That has led to many of these inequities, but I'm really proud of the work that we've done to overcome those. I will say this, I believe this. We are in a time right now where equity is a bad word to say. And I say this, equity is all about student outcomes. It is solely based on the outcomes of our students. I sit at tables like this in the Council of the Great City Schools, which is the 80 largest school districts in the United States based upon enrollment. And so clearly JCPS is about the 30th. But for my time as superintendent, we've sat around tables like this lamenting on how we eliminate the achievement gap. We also are all held accountable as superintendents for that achievement gap, whether it's a part of your score, whether it's a color score, whether it's TSI identification. We are held accountable for that, and rightfully so. I want to say that, rightfully so, we're held accountable. But how are we possibly supposed to eliminate that achievement gap unless we are serious about equity and attacking it from every angle? I say this, I don't have magic fairy dust in my desk that I can say this is what's going to eliminate the achievement gap. We've tried for decades just to implement one program or one initiative at a school or the state or at a district. That does not work. You must attack this from every single angle, every single inequity that happens within our schools. I'll end by saying this. I say this a lot, that nearly in every district, at least in the every district in the Council of the Great City Schools, and I would say most of our districts in the United States right now, there is an achievement gap between black and white students. And so either one of two things is happening if it's happening in every district. Either we believe that black kids cannot achieve at the same level as white kids, which I clearly do not believe, or there are inequities that have occurred in our society, outside of our school walls and inside of our school walls, that have led to these inequities. And that's what we have to attack if we're going to eliminate the achievement gap. So even though it continues to be a word that a lot of people are running from, I think it's about student outcomes and eliminating that achievement gap. And I'm committed, even if I'm not in this, I won't be in this position after June 30th, but I am committed to ensuring that my work is, let's make sure we reduce those achievement gaps so that we can improve outcomes for kids. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Dr. Polio, I appreciate your being here to receive this award, but more, I appreciate the representation of an educator to the greater good of our community. You've contributed to that in a huge measure, and we thank you. So great, thank you for being here. Board members, we've had a very substantive meeting. I appreciate your dedication to the hard work and the challenges that we are going to face as we do our homework. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
All right, is there a second?
So seconded.
Is there discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
If there are any noes, let's hear it.